All right. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day today. Whew, man, I tell you, getting close to holidays, and this is going to be a fun one today. We're basically kind of touching up on the system. We've been building it for about the past week or so. I've done, I think, one, maybe two live streams over this specific thing, but I've been kind of really diving in this weekend. I took this and put it on a laptop. Over on my Twitter, I went ahead and shared a couple photos of that experience, and it works pretty well. I think on a fresh install, we're hovering around 1,000 packages, which is actually very, very good for almost any Debian install. So, pretty awesome. Do we not have sound? Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm a chickmunk now. Oh no! Alright. We might have to stop the stream. Oh no. That's great. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Oh no. That's too great. 5-minute break. 5-minute break. Here I'm back. That. All right, now we wait. I'm gonna see if I can't see what happens on this end. All right, now let's tell me better. All right, we're good. Woo! Normal voice. So that was a fun little tidbit. Don't change your mic voice to 48 kilohertz. Or is it hertz? I don't know. Whatever. I'm not an audio engineer. I just know that was such a great way to start a stream. Yeah, so by default, mic's running, I think, 42 or 44. Somehow I toggled it to 48. And I guess that made my pitch, my voice crazy. Now I miss the chipmunk. That was so great. I was like, man, chat is on fire. I just see the streaming over here as I was kind of telling everybody what was going on. Oh, so awesome. All right, well, that there went about 100 people. That's okay. I love it. But yes, so this stream is mainly just kind of going back to building a unique experience, and we're getting closer each day to kind of having what I view as my perfect operating system. And we'll get on the desktop here shortly and do that. Let's see what we got. I have been doing a lot of patches to the stream setup too. I recently switched out the networking switch as we were having some interruptions on the stream. We'll see if it's any better now. I went from the Aruba to the MikroTik now, so that should be better. Hopefully we don't see any drop frames from the networking side of things, as we were before. And then, yeah, this stream should be pretty solid. Famous last words, knock knock. Yeah, so, I mean, I really love OBS. I mean, it's going to be a cold day in hell before we ever switch from OBS. It's free, it has so many plugins, it's just amazing. Like, anything else I've ever tried to do has been awful by comparison. I love OBS and its integration, no doubt. Yeah, it did not jive with the 48. Even though I think my OBS was set to 48 because I wanted to up everything just a bit, it just fell apart. It could be Windows with OBS, I don't know. But anyways, I just reset everything back to 44, I think it is. Fun little tidbit there. I'd rather try it on a live stream. I would hate to like record a whole video and then it'd just be like high-pitched chipmunk the entire time. I might just roll with it though, honestly, at that point.
What's the operating system gonna? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I've had a lot of stuff. I'm less concerned about what it'll be called and how it comes together. At the end of the day, it'll be Debian for the most part. I'm not gonna be. It's more about sticking it to a server version of Debian than staying on anything. I want a very, very minimal footprint to where the install process should be less than 5 minutes. So that's the big thing here. Mic's a Heil PR40. I've tried a bunch of different mics, like obviously the tried and true SM7B. I just didn't like how artificial and boomy that sound. So that's why I went with the PR40 instead. What is your opinion of GNOME? There's a lot of operating system, or a lot of distros based on GNOME. Elementary, I think Elementary is. No, Elementary is its own deal, actually. I think that's like Pantheon. But anyways, Pop! OS is based on GNOME. Ubuntu's based on GNOME. A lot of them are. I absolutely hate it. A lot of Linux vets are probably rolling their eyes and saying, it's pronounced GNOME. Whatever. It's pronounced GNOME. That's like what every sane person in the world would think of. But I hate GNOME. I think it's terrible. I think it's designed and fundamentally flawed. I think I'd rather use Windows than use GNOME. Let me explain. The extensions and how GNOME is built out is absolutely atrocious. And frankly, if it ever did see widespread attention, it would be hacked to no end. And I want to explain this. Let's say I put my black hat on for a second. GNOME's extensions are actually installed through a web browser. Take that in for a second. To interact with the settings and modifications of your OS, you have to install an extension in your web browser. Talk about bad design. I think there's nothing worse. That's the epitome of terrible design. Like I said, Mac and Windows would be better than GNOME. I just absolutely hate that desktop environment. I couldn't think of anything worse to use. So, let me, yeah, there's really no wiggle room there. That's just kind of how it is. I really just, no, don't use GNOME. I do like KDE. I like XFCE. There's a couple desktop environments I think are pretty good. OpenBox usually doesn't get enough love, mainly because it's a little bit ugly out of the box. LXQT. There's a lot of different desktop environments I think do a far better job. Yes, it will be based on Debian SID. Originally, I was going to do it on testing instead of SID, but I switched to SID mainly because testing, the repos, I think there was a couple packages that I was missing that SID had, and also the testing branch sometimes can get frozen. Even if there's a bug in it, the testing branch will get frozen, where if there's a bug in SID, you just wait like a couple hours or maybe a day and it'll be patched out. So that's kind of why I switched to SID from testing after seeing it. Would you prefer to use Manjaro or use an Arch Linux GUI installer? Arch Linux GUI installer. I really like a lot of them. Specifically, ArchFi I've used a ton in the past, and I really like the more vanilla experience because the one big problem Linux Desktop has is it's all these different people and all these upstream stuff that happens for an interaction with anything in it. Meaning Manjaro's based on Arch Linux. To me, they're effectively the same thing. The only difference between the two is Manjaro has its own repos and they tacked on some other stuff. So it's more things to go wrong from a sysadmin point of view. When you tack on a bunch of different systems, you're just increasing that surface of probabilities of things going foobar. And that's just not good. So to me, when I look at all these different distributions in Linux, I only see really three distributions that I would consider for a desktop. Fedora, which is RHEL-based, Debian, or Arch, depending on your needs. Those three are pretty much the only ones I would even bother looking at, me personally. For a newbie, none of those are very good. Except maybe for a learning experience. Oh, Cinnamon too. Yeah. Thank you for the correction there, Michael. Cinnamon's also really good DE. I think Mint Team did good with Cinnamon. Unity's been depreciated for many, many years. I think ever since Ubuntu 18, I think is when Unity was removed and they switched to GNOME. Yeah, I do like, I don't necessarily like the look, but I do like the integration with, specifically, I think scaling. There are some things that GNOME does okay. And scaling and some of the look and feel, specifically on tablets, is considerably better. Who fixed bugs faster, Debian Arch? It's kind of a loaded question there. Arch is going to have more bugs than Debian by design. Debian's just so slow moving that you're not going to have nearly as many bugs enter the ecosystem. Arch is just so rapid fire, more things are going to go wrong than a Debian system. It's just how things are. But in the flip side of that, Debian's got older packages, so you don't get a lot of the new hotness right when it comes out. So it just depends on you as a user. What kind of risk tolerance do you have? If you want just a rock-solid, stable distro, Debian, right? You're not going to mess around with Arch. And to prove that point, I guess there's some kind of debate among noobs in the Linux desktop realm. But for any veteran out there or anybody that really deals with IT-type solutions, there is no debate. It's like, hey, obviously, if you want a stable experience, it's going to be Debian. If you want more bleeding edge, you're going to want Arch. The hint is in the name. Stable, bleeding edge, or rolling release. I mean, it's just, that's how it is. A good example of this is there are no Arch servers. You never walk into a data center and go, oh, this server that depends on functionality, whether it's a website, whatever it might be, that frankly, that's what Linux is for. They aren't running Arch. I've never seen an Arch server in a data center. I've seen plenty of Debian, a lot of Rail-based systems, but I've never seen an Arch in a data center, and that's because they're not stable. There you go. So it depends on you as a user. And it's not to say Arch is bad, it's just different. So Debian has the stable branch, the testing branch, and the SID branch, or basically the dev branch. All three branches are very stable. The SID branch has a little more bugs because that's kind of like the testing ground. The testing is typically a little bit better than SID, but honestly, I find testing and SID kind of should be lumped into one because for the most part, they're going to encounter the same kind of bugs. Testing maybe a little bit less, but stable is it's in the name. It's as stable as it could possibly be. But the packages are so old that it's hard to use for a lot of gaming and in different things that are happening in the Linux space. So if let's say I didn't have anything in the public, I just wanted a very stable production environment, I would just install a very stable version of Debian, whether you could even do Linux Mint or something like that if you wanted, because they're all based on that stable branch. Packages are a little old, and you just got to deal with that. That's the big gotcha that most desktop users don't like about Debian, is the packages are a bit old. Thoughts on Pop's DE they're making? I love to see new stuff enter the space, but I was talking with a dev last night, actually, and I won't name who, but he said something that kind of stuck with me, and I'll just go ahead and repeat what he said because I thought it was very good. And what he said was, I think they bit off a little more than they can chew. I hope he's wrong, but I'm almost inclined to agree with him. That's going to be very interesting. It's going to make Pop! OS, starting off, it's going to be a lot less stable. And that's going to be, I think it's going to introduce a lot less people into their environment. And that's just going to be interesting to see. I hope that's not the truth. I'd love to see new stuff. But man, System 76 and my pop team are biting off a lot to get done. And anytime you do any big migration or you do anything really big in any kind of technology field, there's a saying, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And it just, expect growing pains. Don't expect a perfect experience right out of the box, because the pop team's going to break a lot of eggs to make that omelet. And that's going to probably cause some people to go, ugh. Jeremy, thanks so much for the super chat. Can you make sure the desktop and open apps scale well at 125 and 150 for 4K monitors? I see problems with a lot of distros. It's a hard problem, Jeremy, to solve, but we can do a toggle, and we could do some documentation and show how to adjust things for that. Specifically, DPI and how that is interfaced and the scaling portion of it. It's not like just one setting to toggle. A lot of times you're interacting with what type of font format are we doing, and those font types for portions of the system will look differently for different people on different resolutions. So I can't promise that it'll look good on that, but I will make documentation on how to change it to, at the very least, look at a 4K monitor. Since I don't have any tests or any 4K monitors here, I can't really test it. So that's why I can't promise anything. Yeah, so like these questions right here, a lot of the different ones I see coming out, the year of the desktop or the Linux desktop, it's never going to be a thing. I'm probably going to make a video, probably this weekend. And I'll probably just say who should not use Linux, because I think there's a misconception that the year of the Linux desktop means everyone can use Linux. And it's just not a very inclusive environment. And I don't say that in a bad way, a negative way. I mean, it's just how it is. You're never going to get uniformity. You're never going to have standardization. You're going to run into a lot of problems that kind of makes a lot of users not be able to use Linux, and that's okay. But it should be acknowledged, and it shouldn't be something like, oh, no, Arch can be for everybody, or Linux can be for everybody. It's not. No Linux distro is for everybody, and that's important to note. And I don't say that, I love Linux, but I realize now that there's never going to be a year of the Linux desktop. There's never going to be the standardization that's needed to really gain adoption. And as Windows screws up more and more, the person that's going to profit from that isn't going to be Linux. I mean, we might a little bit. We might see some adoption, not much. But we might see a little bit for more of the power user range, or even maybe some of the more basic users too. I think both ends of the spectrum really can use Linux. It's just that middle average user that really suffers in Linux. Most of those will probably pivot to like a Mac system. As much as I don't like Mac for the look and feel of it, it is a very stable experience. And Mac will pick up most of the average users in the world. It's just the extremes of the spectrum that Linux can pick up on. The basic user that just needs like web browsing and those types of things, they can use like a Linux Mint or Pop OS or whatever it might be pretty easy, and they serve its function. And then there's the power user over here, and that power user can do, I think it's aggravating for them starting out, but then as they start to learn more and more, that pendulum swings. Like if I think back to when I started using Linux desktop, like 2 or 3 years ago, it took me like that first 30 days, I was just so angry. But after that, I started to see, oh, you know what? I'm almost just as efficient. And then after about 2 or 3 months, then pretty soon, I'm more productive in Linux than I am in Windows. And that's from like 20 years of Windows experience. And that evolvement you see, and probably a good one that I want to watch, especially a very good public figure, is Luke from Linus Tech Tips. I feel like I see that fire in his eyes, where I want to say he's probably going to really take the plunge on Linux. I think Luke really wants to go deep on it, and I think he's going to immerse himself, and I'm curious to see what his opinions are in 2 months. in 60 days. Because I remember that was just kind of like the aha moment for myself. It was about 60 days of usage that I was like, whoa, I can't believe I've been just making do with Windows for this long for a lot of these tasks. Mind you, there's still tasks I have Windows for. It's just one of those things. So I went a little bit off on a tangent there. Basil, thanks so much for the super chat. Too many choices in distros paralyzes normies. Yeah, it's not just distros. It's just packages in general. There's just so many different options, and that's the beauty of Linux. It's a double-edged sword, you know? There's almost anything for anybody out there, but finding that right mix is always the most difficult part. Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, so this right here I want to show this real quick, and I'll keep back the chat. This right here is just something I've been working on a little bit, and it's basically how I'm going to use my system. And a lot of it just is very, very rewarding, because when I'm working in here and I'm doing my thing, it is just such a better experience than anything I've ever done before in my life. So much so that I'm really working on kind of fixing up a lot of this stuff, where to make this look good, this is polybar at the top, and then I'm also using a window manager, so I can it'll do auto tiling like this, or if I have something like that, or if I like run GIMP, it'll go ahead and flash over to its own desktop, pull up GIMP for me, and then let's say I wanted to grab some thumbnail stuff, I can just come into here and grab like today's video's thumbnail. Let's keep that, and I'll redo that. And then I can just work as I would, and then I'm done, I quit out, and then I'm like, you know what, I need to come back into here, grab my stuff, and it's mainly just getting that workflow, kind of figuring that out for myself, and then also making it user friendly for a new user, to where you're not spending weeks kind of developing this. And I think it was, see, this is my RC file that I've been working on, and there's certain things in here. I was talking, I think it was with another dev, and I was trying to get my head wrapped around bash shell. A lot of people think that I do a lot of shell scripting in my career. That's not true. I've done basic shell scripting, but not very much. And I've actually, a lot of people think of me as a Linux guy, and truth be told, I have 11 different Windows Server certifications, and my true expertise lie in Windows and customizing Windows. So when I'm on Linux, I get so excited. I'm so happy because I'm learning something new a lot of times. In Windows, a lot of times I see a bug, I already know what's causing it, and it's just more of an annoyance than anything else, because I'm just like, oh, it's this thing again. I remember 7 years ago when this happened. So that's kind of the two things. But needless to say, I'm better with PowerShell scripting and those types of things, where shell scripting is kind of neat, where when I was talking to that dev, he kind of showed me a couple things. Like I can do I think it's like Neo make, and it kind of goes through my scripts and shows me what all I'm missing. So let's just vim into my polybar. I haven't really fixed that up yet. Thanks so much for the super chat there, Basil. Let's see here. I'll get to that. So let's say there's something in here and I want to like just, hey, what's going on with this? Let's see, file me. How to enable file? Oh, oops. I need to work on that, but I'm still working on kind of building this out, making everything customized to where I can build this in a clean environment. Because when I did my ArchFi script back over here, which, do I even have this? I think on my GitHub, I still have Arch Titus. Where are you at? This right here was like my first foray into bash scripting. So making all this automated and installing Arch automatically was actually probably my very first bash script done with a bit of time associated with it. Most times I ever did a bash script, it was like me taking 5 minutes and just going, okay, good enough, it works, and moving on. And this was my first foray, and I really wanted to do more double checks and then move to a more stable base, and that's why I chose Debian for the host of this entire system. So that just a little tidbit here. We'll get into more of the development side of that here in a second. Someone should make an OS2 skin for KDE or GNOME. Yeah. OS2, man. I never used OS2, actually. I was always Win95, Win311 throughout all of the early 90s. But the big thing with that is I want everything to be minimal. Very, very minimal. No DE's ever going to be installed on it. And it's more about making scripts to accomplish everything. Like there's a question that came earlier in chat that was like, hey, I want to make sure my 4K monitor works. And to do that, I need to document all that out. And I want you interfacing with everything in the terminal. And maybe I know some people are going to be like, that's not for me, and that's the point. I really want it to be a stable experience, like very, very stable, to where you're just doing everything, you know where everything is, but you're also learning as you're using this, and it'll teach you a new way to use your computer and feel really good about the experience. But it's definitely going to be power user or above. Your normies, your very beginning users will not use this. It's more for those that want to treat it like a learning experience. So I hope that makes a little more sense. A little scatterbrained today, so you know. Nope. No DE. Where's iCloud? Yeah, so actually I stream every Tuesday afternoon and then also on Fridays. It took a little bit to get this thing kind of dialed in, but I really like dialing in streams because it helps with the recording process. If I can do this stream and get everything dialed in just perfect, that means when I go to make my videos, I'd have to spend less time editing my videos, which I do like my edits on my videos. I was actually spending a ton of time on today's rack video, and that was fun. That was fun making that. I do like to kind of go crazy with edits sometimes. Yes, please click the like button. Please clap. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a great Tuesday as well. Debian-based Vista versus Ubuntu. Not much difference here. I'd say the biggest difference between Ubuntu and Debian is Ubuntu typically has PPAs, which is just like a different way of adding apt repositories, which is how you install packages. The other big thing Ubuntu's doing, specifically in the desktop realm, not so much in the server realm, is they're pushing more stuff into snaps. And I hate this direction, mainly because snaps, you lose a little performance. And I just don't like it. Now, there's no nefarious reason behind this. The big reason is they just don't want to keep updating 4 or 5 different versions of a package for their LTS releases. So Ubuntu has 5-year releases, where Debian has, what is it? I forget what their support structure is. It's a little bit more loose. I think it's like every 2 years they do a release. But every release that, every LTS release of Ubuntu does, they promise 5 years of support. That means for 5 years, they're building out a package for that specific release. So if they have 5 other releases in that 5 years, now they're building out 5 packages every time that program gets updated. So that's why they're pushing snaps. I just particularly think snaps is a terrible solution, mainly from the performance and a lot of different things. Maybe they can make it better, but my personal experience with it has not been great, and I don't particularly like that version of Ubuntu desktop. But with that said, a lot of the Ubuntu spins, they rip out all those snap stuff and they do their own thing. Like Linux Mint, I know Clem went ahead and removed snaps altogether. I mean, that's kind of like the nuclear approach, but I'm not adverse to it. I actually kind of, because that's exactly what I do. But that's kind of the gist of what's going on with Ubuntu. There's just more going on, where Debian is just, hey, every couple of years you get a new release. With Arch or Manjaro, snaps sometimes are needed. I don't think snaps are ever needed. Let me take that a little bit further. I don't think snaps, flat packs, or app images are really ever needed. You could just always build from source. It's just most people don't ever want to do that. And that can lead to some problems. Now, having said all that, for a base level user, snaps, app images, and those have their perks because everything's contained in this one file, basically, or one command, really. And it's kind of separated out from the operating system. So there's less chance of you working your system with snaps or flat packs or app images. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I lose a little performance whenever I use them. So that's why I'm kind of averse to them. But for the normies out there, man, I tell you, snaps and flat packs and app images all are very good. But if I had to pick one of the three, I would say flat packs. I love flat packs. Snaps equals the... Yeah, I think I did make a video. I think I've since privated it to try and not, poke the bear, so to speak. But I did make a video basically saying that exact same thing. I was waiting for that response from somebody that uses Arch. Let's see. You prefer just deb packages? I do. I think deb packages are good. A lot of times they'll interface with apt, and you might even get auto-updating deb packages. However, it just depends on what you're doing. I'm working on creating my own repository because I'm modifying some things with how I do, specifically on the desktop system here. This right here and how I'm interfacing with like Rofi. This Rofi is Debian based, but like you look at like the power options and some other stuff. I've had to actually do modifications to the project itself. So I'm actually making my own deb package, which let's see, do I have it in here? I think I do. Now I guess I could hide files so it's not a little bit of a mess. It's a little bit of a cluster, isn't it? What is it? I think it's Control H. Yeah. Let's go here. Make things look a little bit better. So I have been working on this right here. Debian, even Debian SID runs Rofi 1.54, and it's not great. So I actually had to make my own Debian package for this, and I'm looking into kind of doing my own repository. Obviously, this is going to be more private. Starting off, just because I've never rolled my own apt repository before, but it is something that I'm looking at because I want to take a lot of the cool packages you got on Arch that are, awesome, but are really not really there in Debian, so to speak. Build those awesome packages or maybe those modifications and then bring them over into the Debian side of things in my own repository using deb files. So I do like deb files, and I think that would be really the approach to take to make sure everything is a seamless experience, because when most people, when they think of window managers, they think Arch, because Arch has the most support. Almost everybody that uses a window manager, or a lot of people, use Arch, and that's because it has a huge community for window management. But Debian, I feel like if you did it just right and build all your own stuff, you can get it there too. And this is kind of going back. I might bite off more than I can chew on this one. But dang, it's going to be a fun ride while we do it. So that's kind of my thought process behind the packages and how I'm going to be kind of approaching this. Yeah, so like app images are interesting. Where I've used app images in the past are specifically with like unstable programs. When I edit all my videos for YouTube in Kdenlive, which is a fantastic beginning video editor. I mean, if you're just getting into video edits, Kdenlive is an awesome place to start. It's great for teaching and It's so small. You can install it on any system, and it's just there to edit video. And in a pinch, I'll still use Kdenlive. Although there's so many things I love about Final Cut. But having said that, Kdenlive can sometimes not be the most stable program, or at least that's how it was when I was using it. And I'd have different app images to say, hey, this specific version is awesome, and I want to use this specific version of Kdenlive. But I like the features from like this new version, and in-app images allowed me to easily swap back and forth between the really stable version of Kdenlive, but maybe didn't have that one feature I wanted, and the newer version if I was doing something funky. And it was neat. That kind of gave a lot of the versatility, so you could have the same program basically 3 or 4 times if you wanted with different versions, which was very, very nice. The emojis do stick out. That's awesome. I love it. Debbie and Titus. Yeah, so Debbie and Titus is kind of, I'm less focused about the distro name, and it's more about just using more vanilla Debian stuff. I think, like I said earlier, a little bit earlier, having that stable surface with everything more server-based, because that's where Linux excels. Let's be real here. Linux desktop could disappear overnight, and most of the population wouldn't care. But if Linux as a whole disappeared, you'd have just mass chaos. It'd be anarchy, because Linux runs the world. I'm not kidding when I say most of so many projects are built upon Linux. So server is really the strength of Linux, and this is more of a addressing that. Less of the DE and all this niche desktop stuff, more on the server side of things with just the packages we need to interface with our system. And that's the big difference between what I'm doing here is less of a, hey, here's a distro that everyone can use. I don't care about that. Here's what I do to Debian to make it more server-based, more stable. So, appreciate it. Antonio, thanks so much for the super chat, man. I really like Flatpak. It seems like it has some of the best performance. That's why I'd recommend it. Also, Flatpak is a completely open source too, if that you're into that kind of thing. All their servers are there. You can. It has a really good repository, really good community. That's why I like Flatpak. For snaps, to not just completely bash snaps here, snaps has a really good syntax. So to install snaps is actually really easy, and probably the best for just like, hey, snap install Discord. That works really well. So that's what Snap has going for it, is ease of use. Flatpak, their naming convention and how you install the syntax is a little bit clunky and something they could improve. What's your approach to keeping Linux environment secure? I would say probably the biggest thing, obviously, having your firewall set up properly. That's one of the biggest things. Physically, you could do secure boots. You could do a lot of different password-based stuff. You could... I think probably the biggest thing, too, is networking side of things. I always tell people having a good gateway, a good interface is more important than your OS. Whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux, securing an environment, the actual networking environment is where you should start. If you're sitting there with your Linksys or your Nighthawk or your Netgear router, get off of that crap. Get something more secure. And something where you can shut down UPnP. You can shut down a lot of stuff. A lot of the security flaws that exist in systems come from the networking side of things. That's the first focus of everything, and where I put most of my focus. Because most of my systems, have so much stuff out there these days that I think if anybody got on my system that was fairly knowledgeable, I think they'd be able to get into my systems with relative ease. But it's mainly just getting them to the point where they're never sitting in front of my system or virtually sitting in front of my system. Those are the two things. that I worry the most about: the network environments and obviously the physical environment too. You need to take consideration to both those things, because you put me on any system that's secure and I'll make it unsecure real quick. if that was the intended purpose. And I think anybody is that. So, I'll leave you one tidbit. I always say it, but it's always worth repeating. Security is a journey, not a destination. What's your opinion of modified Windows images? Yeah. I'm against it. Not because of like piracy or, whatever. If you want to stick it to the man, have at it. I don't care. And I, obviously I'm no fan of Microsoft, but modified images are terrible and usually fraught with danger. A lot of times you have to go to the shady forums or websites to download these unsanctioned images that make some system modifications. I think back to the most infected system I've ever seen in my life. It was actually a server 2000 workstation system. Had, I think, somewhere in like the neighborhood of like 1,000 different viruses. It was amazing. It was just ridiculous. It had more viruses than files on the system. But that was actually a hacked copy of that specific OS. So going back as far as that to present day, I can't say I've downloaded any modified Windows images from a third party. I think that's silly. There's no reason to do that. I think you should make your own. If you are using modified Windows images, just know, going back to the secure portion of things, you're not secure. You could slip in a Trojan horse. You can do a lot of different things to modify the system in a way, or be part of like a botnet. There's a lot of different things that happen to these modified images, and it's just bad all the way around. Make your own image. If you want a stripped down version, you can go all the way to the AME approach and build it your own, or you could just take like my images. I like a kind of what I consider a sane debloat. And that's really just stripping stuff out using, MSMG toolkit, or you could even do like NT Lite if you want a more paid product. I think NT Lite's like $30. So if you're really into custom images, make your own images. Never trust someone else to do it for you, because I've seen that end badly in many instances. I have never got a virus on Linux. No, I mean, I've heard about viruses on Linux, but I've never got one personally. A couple other things. George, man, I tell you, you're in good hands, man. pfSense is a fun one. There's a couple little gotchas with pfSense, but man, it's worth it. PF Blocker. So I would use a stock install and then run the PF Blocker wizard. You'll be shocked at how much better your network will run. So I'm buying actually a MikroTik switch. I love their fanless designs. It's just, obviously don't buy a router, but the switches are such a good deal, and you can strip out, just use them for layer 2. Just use them for what they're meant to be used as, which is a switch. Don't add a bunch of crap up to it. Don't do like a VPN with a MikroTik. Ugh, it'd be terrible. Absolutely terrible. Many people are quitting Windows 11. Thoughts? Most people will go back to Windows 10 until Windows 11 becomes more secure, or more stable, I should say. Me personally, Windows 11 has made me rage more than I like. I will say I do like the look of Windows 11, though. No doubt. WSL2 versus Daily Drive Linux. Why? Those are two different things. Daily driving Linux is more for someone that wants a unique experience, or something that's different than the experience they're getting in Windows. Or maybe a more secure just environment in general. That would be why you do Linux. WSL2 is more for people that are stuck in Windows, whether they have Photoshop or Microsoft Office, or they're a big gamer. Gaming's not great. a lot of instances. They want to stick on Windows, but they also have their development work. When you're developing in Windows can be a bit of a nightmare, and WSL2 is more for the developers, less for a Linux user. Like I said, when I'm over in Windows, I really appreciate WSL2 being there because, oh, cool, I can just look this up real fast. A lot of times I'm using WSL2 for command or syntax reference. Hey, is this script going to run? Is there going to be an error here? Let me just pop up a little WSL2 prompt, do a couple tests. Sweet, awesome, back to my regular workflow if I was in Windows. So WSL2 is really for that. It's not an either or kind of thing. To me, it's apples to oranges. The reasons why you daily drive Linux would basically outweigh why you'd do a lot of the other aspects of it for WSL2. I'm not using Ansible. I love Ansible. I need to use a lot more of the Ansible playlists and other things like that, Rafal. But yeah. I don't know on that. I think, I know they've heard about it. I think Jeremy Seller over on Twitter, I remember him mentioning it. He's definitely seen that video, needless to say, and it was not a good look for Pop! OS. The one takeaway for Pop! OS I wish they did was more quality control. Obviously, that was a massive bug that should have never been there in the first place, and it's just extremely bad luck that Linus stepped in it. I mean, that's all we can say here is, one, it was such an obscure bug that most Linux users would never encounter because your average Linux user would update their system and then they'd go to install Steam and other stuff. That it's just unforeseen for a lot of testing. I can see how it was overlooked, but at the same time, I think now Pop! OS is thinking, okay, well, we're starting to get some regular people using our systems. We need to make sure we step up that quality control so this type of thing doesn't happen again. So that in that respect, I do think Pop! OS will hopefully learn from this mistake, this bug that happened, and go forward with it. The worst thing here is if it didn't affect anything and they were just like, well, Linus was just out to do something bad. I don't think that would be their attitude, but let's say it was. That's when you just don't learn anything. And, it's just part of the evolution process. Failure is a good thing. I think it's really important to say that. I try to fail often, and that's when I learn. And I think Pop! OS failed this result. For a new user, they failed terribly. All Linus did was install Steam without updating his system. And they should have, at the very least, put a check and go, hey, you haven't updated your system. We're doing updates before we install Steam. But again, it's more quality control, and I think that's the big takeaway here. Why wouldn't you daily drive Linux? You're a gamer. You use Microsoft Office. You use Adobe Photoshop. You don't want to learn something new. You like your workflow in Windows. Those types of things. Linux isn't for everybody. And I think probably those are my top 5 out of the top of my head. I probably should do a video of who shouldn't use Linux or who will have a problem with Linux. I don't know what the title on that. I'll have to workshop that a little more, but that's the too long didn't watch of that future video. It was a pop issue. So from my understanding, talking to people smarter than me, is pop was modifying the apt package, and apt controls how you install packages on your system. And I think they did a slight modification during some type of update, and it wasn't properly vetted. And that modification just so happened to be on the stock install that Linus was using. Linus installed Pop! OS, and he's like, man, I want to get to gaming. Okay, I've got this Linux thing going. He went to install Steam, this modified version of apt, said, hey, let's uninstall your entire desktop. And then Linus was like, Well, that doesn't seem right, but okay. Yes, do as I say. And that is pretty much the entire story in a nutshell. It was definitely a pop issue. And for those users that are like, well, it's why didn't he read the screen? And I want to just say, an average user, one, doesn't read. let's be frank here. I've been an IT manager for a business for probably 15 something years now, for multiple businesses. And I can't tell you how many emails I sent out and like, hey, I'm doing maintenance tonight. We're doing a big migration. Make sure you log out of the system before I start my maintenance. And then I send 3 more with a big red bold text. I'm shutting down stuff. Hey. And then as soon as I hit the shutdown button, I get like 5 calls from people. Hey, I'm into something. I'm like, hey, I sent out 5 emails. And they're like, oh, my bad. Okay, well, yeah, when I need that document. So the average user doesn't read. But also, even if they did read, and I think Linus read it, he just didn't understand what's Pop Desktop. That doesn't seem right. Is Steam doing something with Pop Desktop to understand? Okay, whatever. I mean, essential packages, it has to remove it to install Steam? Is that a thing? I mean, think of it from a person that doesn't know anything about Linux, and I can see how an average user would totally bork that up. But, you know, the knee-jerk reaction to us people that have been on Linux for a while is just to look at it and go, oh, what an idiot. I can't believe that. You know, and that's the average Linux vat that would do it. But think more of, hey, let's pretend you didn't know all the stuff you know about Linux and then install it for the first time. And that's something I always have to keep in the back of my mind when I'm trying to make a video. Because a lot of times I talk at such a high level and I start going DEs and other stuff that people look at my videos and go, I mean, you seem smart, but I have no idea what you're talking about, and I can't do what you're doing. So, oh well. And that's kind of the bit of it all. Katie, thanks so much for the super chat, man. Much appreciated. This right here, though, do as I say. I am totally going to be saying that in every video going forward. Kali Linux, it's very good. If you're into security and you're trying to get into like networking and those types of things, I totally recommend Kali Linux. I know Network Check does a lot of Kali Linux content. It's basically Debian with a whole bunch of security suite baked in, which is nice. But for the average user, Kali Linux, nah, forget about it. How did it take Linus to find it and no one saw that before? George, there's not that many new users in Linux. I know a lot of people would like you to think that Linux is this giant revolution and it's just getting adopted left and right. But the fact of the matter is, so many people try Linux and go, this is pretty cool, but I need to do a whole bunch of other stuff and I don't have time to research how to do it. So I'm just going to use Windows or Mac because everything is pretty much vetted and done and I already know how to do it over there. So that's why. There's just not that many new users. For better or worse. Niche tech. Yeah, that's true. I do niche down a little too much sometimes. So the big thing here, Night Rush, in any Linux system, this isn't Pop OS, this isn't, anytime you install a new system, I don't care what it is, in Linux, Unix, anything, BST, Windows, Mac, this is the truth. Anybody in tech should follow this one rule. It doesn't matter what it is, Windows, Linux, Mac, all of the systems. As soon as you get that system booted into the desktop, the very first thing you do every time, update your system. That would have resolved everything. You never, and I mean never, it's true in Windows too, you never install a system and then just immediately start going into programs. You always run those system updates. You never, ever want to use what's on the disk right out of the gate. And that's true in Linux, it's true in Windows, it's true in Mac. You want those security updates, you want those feature updates off of whatever ISO it is, because typically, more from a security perspective and a stability perspective for both. There's going to be a lot more security holes, and you're going to have a lot of stability issues. I don't daily drive Linux because my development workflow involves some custom SDKs specifically designed for Windows. A very good use case of where you wouldn't use Linux, and that's very valid. Yeah, I'm actually making an OnlyOffice video. I really like OnlyOffice. I haven't never made an OnlyOffice video. I've made a video about a year or two ago going over, I think it was LibreOffice and how to make it compatible with a lot of Microsoft stuff. But OnlyOffice would be a better solution, I think. So be looking for that video soon, probably towards the end of the month, maybe December when I'm doing the OnlyOffice. Yes, you can run SuperText. It's not just WSL2 though, you need WSLG. So depending on your graphics, you could. I've run SuperTux using WSL2 with WSLG. And I've even done a video on WSLG if you're interested in that. Charles. Not many. True, I've been migrating to Linux ever since Ubuntu 9. And, you know, in that same realm as Charles here, a lot of people will just be on Linux, and that's okay. And you might dual boot into Windows. I know it's kind of like nobody really talks about it too much in the Linux community because they don't want to admit they dual boot. But I still dual boot on almost all my systems. I have Linux and Windows because I just do so much and so many different things, and sometimes it just is not going to work right in Linux, and I'll have to boot into Windows to do whatever it might be. Specifically, I know there's some line of business apps I've used. There's this proprietary app for a line of business app that I needed, and I had to use Windows for it. Obviously, I tried to do it in Wine, but to no avail. And there's just certain things like that pop up. Or KD's point earlier, he was needing a special SDK from a developer standpoint. There's just times where sometimes you have to dual boot, and you know, hey, it's okay. Dual booting, I think, is fantastic. How can you survive with Windows compatibility when you're using Linux? Let me show you this. I'll jump to the desktop and actually show you. Usually I just use apt. apt-get kind of reminds me like Ubuntu. I think it was Ubuntu 16, but almost all the aliases are there now to where just use apt. Let's see. All right, let's jump over the desktop. I'm gonna actually show you how I dual boot, because it's not really a dual boot. I'm gonna show you two different ways of dual booting. And one way requires no boot at all. It just both are spun up. It does require two boxes though. But yeah, it's always just good to have. So let's get on the desktop here, and I'll show you this whole setup. Let's just quit out of this. So typically how I would do it, I'd be in here. I think I got like Moonlight. Oops, no, you know what? I think I need to fix that. All right, let's just go here. Still working on this. This menu, I kind of been bouncing around a little bit, trying to figure out what kind of menu I want to go with. Just trying all the different options. But anyway, I digress. So usually I just pull up Moonlight. Let's say I wanted to play like Diablo 2, or let's say I just wanted to make a Windows video for folks. A lot of times I just come right into here, and then I'd have all of my stuff, and I think I pushed through all my keys. Yeah, I did. Good. So I have all of this. So I do all my whatever it is, like I think code 2 email signatures. This is like a line of business app I needed. There's a couple other things. I think there was a specific online training that required me to install Windows and utilize. What else in here? There's a couple different things that I'm using this for. This is just kind of like a transplant, but I also need to run updates, it looks like. Let's come into here. So what I do is it's kind of isolated off into my little gaming controller one, so I can just do that. And then I can develop right here. So this is one way of doing it. This is a separate streaming box, which if we look at Device Manager, typically I got my DPI set really high because usually I'm on a controller when I'm on this box. but we got the 2060 in there, and we did that on during the build last stream. So that's one way of doing it, but that's obviously you have to have 2 PCs, and one I would grab a little dummy and put it in here. The dummy is a little HDMI thing off Amazon. I think I paid $5 for it, and it just slides into the HDMI port. That way you don't have to have a monitor hooked up, and that just sits in my rack, which is kind of nice. So there's that. Let's just go ahead and quit this actually. And what we'll do now is I need to reboot. My reboot commands are a little janky right now in this. I still have to program them up. We'll try and address that here shortly. But let's sudo reboot this. I don't even think I gave my user privileges yet. So then the other way to dual boot is just to have 2 drives. I highly recommend 2 drives. Yes, you can do it on 1 drive, but again, I don't recommend it. So this is this one, and this is my testing environment, obviously, that I'm building out. And then we got Windows 11. So if I need to do a Windows 11 video, I'd boot into this this thing. Ooh, man, I'll tell you. Basil, I have 2 PCs on a KVM, my gaming and video monster with a, oh my gosh, a 3090. Woo, doggies. That's a beast. I'd kill for a 3090. And my PC with a 1060 for Manjaro. See, and with that, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. I personally, KVM, I'd rather do like 2 monitors with 1 keyboard and mouse, and then just have them between each other. So if I wanted to get over here, I just slide my mouse and I'm immediately typing on the system. KVMs add a little bit of a slowdown to my workflow. So I have my Mac over here. I have my direct on streaming PC down here. I have another one up here that's my main PC, and then I have this massive widescreen monitor flipped vertical for chat, because Lord knows I miss chat a lot. And that way I can scroll about 50 lines of chat at once. Opinion on Winget. Well, I love Winget. So just to kind of show that, let's close that out. I need, my battery level is critically low. It's been saying that for like a month. Eventually I'll get there. Did my wallpaper engine not launch? Aw. Oh, you know what? I think they patched. Okay, wallpaper engine stopped working on Windows 11. Oh boy. Unless my personalization's still there. Oh, that's bright. That's really bright. All right, let's go back here. Oh my gosh, I'm blind. Can we switch to dark mode there? Okay, thank you. Ooh, doggies. Oh well. So I guess my personalization, it might be something with my evaluation build. I do need to switch this up to like what do we have? Insider program. Do we have anything? Can I switch from dev? Yeah, no. I'm still on the dev channel. I'm trying not to update my system so I can hopefully switch to beta. But you gotta leave it for like a month or 2, and hopefully it won't mess with you. But anyways, getting back to your original question, Winget. I love Winget. Just opening this up and then just going Winget, search. And let's say I wanted to grab like putty. I can just do a search for putty, grab it directly off of here, just do Winget install putty. And usually it would install, or sometimes you have to do like -E for exact and do that. And then it would install putty. So I like it. It's very nice. Obviously it bombed out. I think I already have putty installed. Yeah, I do. But I love the addition. I think Microsoft's saying, hey, these things are actually good in Linux. We should bring those to Windows. And I can appreciate that. I personally like that. But anyways, enough Windows 11. I can't. Just little bugs here and there for it just has been a little disheartening for me. I've not enjoyed the latest updates. I love you guys. Solar flare. My eyes. Me too, man. But this is just dual booting in a nutshell. I really enjoy the speed of it usually. Now I'm still working on some of like how this is. I need to write something in my bash script on startup to wait for a lot of the network connection, because I think I'm running into some issues with let's see, did it show drive connected? Oh yeah, I guess I did get it all. Oh no. So some of it, like FCP and data, did not load up. We'll push that over there. And then I want to wait for that network connection a little bit longer. It's just not quite there yet. So one little bug we got to work out, which to do that, let's just come into Vim. And usually I would come down into here. I'm not mounting them down here. I tinkered with this a little bit, writing my own script for that, but not quite there. And before Discord launches, actually, I wish I did like an NM online. I think like maybe a 120 timeout, and I think we can do like a do while loop here to check that out. Let's launch into our browser. Do while value bash script. Yeah, right now I'm just working on kind of customizing this a little bit more. I wanted to get into that on the stream a bit. But the reason why I chose like BSPWM for a lot of my interface here is because of the ability to add scripting to it, to meaning I can set custom certain things up, like, hey, don't install or mount my network drives until my network's completely online. Don't launch Discord unless I'm online. Those types of things, which is kind of big. Yeah, right now I'm using Nordic instead of Dracula. Dracula is a really good theme. I just like the Nordic, more grayish than the... I want to say Dracula is more like purplish almost. Not quite purplish, but close. And I use Windows on old hardware. Yeah, probably AME. You can do a lot to Windows to really strip it down to get it working on old hardware. It's just a little bit more of a pain, where something like this, obviously, more minimal setup would be a little bit more... It'd be a lot kinder to some of that old equipment. Show your new Rofi theme. Yeah, so my Rofi theme right now, I'm just kind of looking at... I'm still not sure on what I want to do here. So I'm just kind of playing around with all the different themes Rofi offers. There's just a lot to choose from. I think this one I like a lot. It feels a little bit Mac-like. The corners here, kind of... I don't know. Can't really... I don't know. The rounded corners, but I can also just make it blocky and just go square with it too. So here's the sidebar view. We usually have the middle view, and then usually there's like a full screen view like this, which I hate full screen views just in general. It'd have to be the sidebar view or probably the floating. Yeah, I'm not using Arch right now. This is all, I really wanted to build this on Debian just to give a bit more of a stable experience. Do you have a dedicated streaming box? Yeah, I do. I usually just stream directly to it. So that streaming box rarely gets turned off. I have recently done a lot of modifications to it. If you look back at the start of the stream, I had like chipmunk voice because I was messing around with how it was ingesting my audio, because I had some audio distortions on some of my recordings, and I was like, ooh. And I ended up cutting out pieces of my video that I actually wanted to leave in, but the audio was garbage. And if you have bad audio, that's like the #1 rule of YouTube. So I ended up cutting out some decent things I actually wanted to add to my video because I had some audio artifacting. And so I was working with that a little bit, changing some settings, and yeah. Having that dedicated stream PC is clutch. More often than not, I would say it saves me a lot of time compared to many other folks. I can do development and stuff like this in between videos, where the videos usually takes me, I usually spend a good day doing videos per week, and then the rest of the time working on like development or ideas or different things that I think will be very good for a lot of folks. Yeah, D menus, okay. I hate a lot of tiling window managers just because, well, D menu is more of a replacement for like Polybar or something like that too, or Rofi really. Rofi and D menu are pretty interchangeable. And I don't know. I've never seen a really good D menu that I enjoyed. Rofi has so many different themes that I feel like we can get just a better user experience with Rofi. Oh, you know what? You guys want to do like a crash course in wine real quick? I probably won't make a YouTube video out of it, but a lot of people ask about wine, and that's like the backbone of gaming on Linux. Seeing some stuff there. Yeah, I have actually transitioned to Pipewire too, by the way. Here, I'll do a little poll. Let's see. Let's see, do you guys want a wine tutorial? Question? Yes, no. Let's oops. Don't care. There we go. Yeah, wine's one of the most misunderstood things. Like, there's a lot of Linux vets that don't understand wine. And it's something that it took me a little bit to wrap my head around, but we can do a quick tutorial on wine if you guys want. But it's a really neat infrastructure. Like, I like to look at how things work from the ground up. And how wine works is super interesting. Emacs tutorial. You know, I don't really even ever have used Emacs. I'm a Vim guy, Anders. That's fighting words. Us Vim people, we don't do good with Emacs. Yeah, I do need to give Emacs a fair shake, though. Oh, wow. I don't think we've ever had a poll this high. Why did you choose that cursor? I like the way it looked. A lot of things are really subjective. Like, when I like the way this aesthetic looks, but it's not for everybody. I know I liked it a lot better than that stock, like, XRDB cursor. Vim is just torture for the clout. Vim's interesting. Like, there's this massive learning curve with Vim, and it takes a long time. I would say Vim has probably one of the longest learning curves out of anything I've tried. I'm trying to think if there's something that I'd probably take me longer to get into. But yes, I think Vim, you have to use it for 6 months probably before you're really comfortable in it. And then it'll probably be 2 years before you really get a lot of efficiency and productivity out of it. Unless you're in there like every single day, like really pounding out. But for like just an average user that's like a nano user using Vim, like myself, I'm kind of like in and out of config files and stuff like that. So I'm not like always in Vim. But it's probably been something like that on the timeline. Something nuts. I love Vim now, though. I really feel like I'm turning that corner on Vim, but it's taken a long, long time. All right, man. This This poll has not budged from like 82% with 300 votes. All right. Windows on Linux, let's get into it. Obviously, you guys want to know about Wine. I've done a terrible job with my videos with Wine. Let's break down Wine and how it works in just emulation in general. Because when you're in Linux, you want to use something. And I'll get some programs from chat, and we're going to try and use whatever Windows programs you guys tell me to use, and we'll try and get them working in Wine. Some will work, some won't, but we need to first understand how Wine is actually structured. And the structure of Wine is everything should be kind of containerized. It's not to say it is, but it should be in its own bottle. They call them Wine bottles, but think of them as folders in your thing. So let's create a new Wine folder, or a bottle as it's called. Typically, Wine's done all from the command line. We're not going to be using any GUIs, no Play on Linux or Proton or Steam or any of that business. Lots of Office, ugh, but we can do it. We could do a lot of different things. Cinebench, we could do, sure. We'll start with like the easiest and go to the impossible, which will be like Office 365. So from here, let's first see if we have Wine. We have Wine, so let's we can do wine-version, and it's on staging. Cool. Do we have Wine tricks? Is probably the next thing. There's two things you really need to know. There's two variables. Wine arc, which this tells it, hey, are we doing a 64-bit or are we doing a 32-bit? A lot of times it's going to be 32-bit, but if you just make it without this variable, it's going to be problematic. To where it's going to be 64-bit trying to use like an old program through Wine. It's just, that program wasn't meant for 64-bit. It's just going to error out and bomb. So it's really important, usually if you're doing any type of gaming, any type of older program that's 32-bit, you always want Wine arc equals 32-bit. This makes that. Next up is, where do we put this bottle? Like I said, bottle, folder, kind of interchangeable. Where should all these Wine files reside in there? So we do what's called Wine prefix. That's going to be here. We'll put it in our home folder, which do a little squiggly line for home. We'll do /, and we'll probably label this. We could do a dot to hide the folder, but let's say we want to just make a Wine bottle and just see it. I think someone mentioned Cinebench earlier, so let's do Cinebench right here. And now we've added those. Those are the two variables. And all this is an environmental variable we're setting before running any files. This right here doesn't run anything. We're just setting variables before a launch. And usually what I like to do is just like do a Wine tricks with no add-ons to this. This kind of sets up this prefix. It creates the folder in the base file. So we'll go ahead and do that. Adobe. Adobe and Office are always the big ones in Wine, and I'll show you why that doesn't work. So usually what I do on my Wine prefixes, I usually would go, okay, select this, no, okay. And then usually I'll add a font. A lot of times you need what's called MS fonts. It's usually down in here, or Win fonts. Let's see. And where are you? MS fonts, or maybe it was at the top. I think it's all fonts right here. This grabs almost all the Microsoft fonts you need. I think they recently changed this though, where, yeah, we're gonna do all fonts. But if you need a specific one, I like to just err on the side of caution and do all fonts. But I don't like doing it from the GUI because there's a lot of user interaction. It'll be like, hey, do you really want to install this? And you're like, yes, please, just do it. So usually I get what I want, and then I do pull that same command in, and then I just do like all fonts. And what this does is it just kind of brute forces installs all the Windows fonts into this Wine bottle. This is a kind of a good first step, especially if you're grabbing a Windows only program that's utilizing like Arial font or Calibri or Times New Roman. Because if you don't add these fonts, a lot of times it'll just not display correctly because it doesn't have those fonts in the bottle or the folder for wine. Yeah, so you can make a separate bottle. Like, let's say there's a 64-bit program that you want to launch. You would do like Wine Arc 64 or Win 64, and then do, you know, Cinebench 64 or whatever it might be, whatever your 64-bit binary is. Your 64-bit program, I should say. Oh, now it's core fonts. Okay, core fonts instead of all fonts. All fonts is probably a bit much, bit on the heavy side. So all fonts is going to install everything. Yeah, so they do change. Another thing about Linux, they like to change the fonts or the packages, whatever you're installing. I don't know why they changed the name of the packages. I don't know if they get like sued or something, and then they're like, oh, we'll just change it to, instead of being MS fonts, we'll change it to core fonts. Like, okay. Annoying, but hey. So while this is downloading, let's go grab like our Cinebench binary to run here. And we'll just get a new workspace, launch this, and we'll just download Cinebench. And we'll grab right here, probably what, Cinebench 23. I believe this should be a 32-bit binary, but we'll see. If it doesn't work in 32-bit, we can always do this in 64. Oh, it's been core fonts for at least 3 years. Has it? Okay, maybe it's just been a minute since I've done that. Man, check out that PowerPoint viewer. What is it grabbing? I think it's grabbing PowerPoint viewer just to extract the fonts. Is it possible to game on a tiling window manager? Jimmy, I think we could definitely do some gaming. Well, obviously we have Moonlight, which I already showed, but let's actually show Steam, right? I think I've launched into Steam, right? Maybe? I do have Steam installed on this. Do I? Okay, yeah. Steam's there. I wonder why I didn't launch from here. Maybe just I didn't click it right. What do we have in my library? So we have like Hollow Knight, which do I have this what do I have installed locally? Oh, okay. Oh no, I don't have this installed locally. Why is this in my... Obviously, it's not installed locally. We'll grab this and install this. I haven't installed anything on this box. Although, let me see. 1 second. I'm going to switch to main chat just because I got to check one of my settings here. I have Steam Play installed. Where's my library? Downloads. Oh, yeah. My bad. Let's come back to desktop. I know what I did. I'm still working on some of my mounting of remote devices. It goes just start and media data mount. Forgot to mount my game drive. That would be why Steam is not seeing any games. I was like, man, I swear I installed some games here. All right, there we go. There's some games. So what do you guys want to see for locally installed games? We have Path of Exile, which I think that actually is being updated. Skyrim. They're just releasing the, I kid you not, the re-release anniversary edition slash like 25th anniversary. I don't know what it is now. It's ridiculous. Cyberpunk. A lot of cyberpunks. All right, here we go. Right now, the GitHub for this project is just not going just yet. So Cyberpunk. Oh, Quake 3 is classic. Do I have Quake? Oh, I don't even have Quake on here. Where is that at? Let's pause our music, right? I dig the music. But let's pause it. Throw some Cyberpunk on here. And agree. Oh, I haven't even I haven't even launched this ever on this PC. Oh, I wrote Steam. Oh, Stream. Oh, that's why it didn't launch. Yeah, I'm glad somebody caught that. WineHQ says GeForce Now client emulation is rated garbage. Reason: cannot stream from NVIDIA servers. Yeah, you could do GeForce Now client emulation using something like, oh, what's going on with Cyberpunk? Oh, let's play that again. But you can use something like Agent Switcher. I think User Agent Switcher. I even wrote an article, I think, about it. We can go here while that sets up here. I want to say I have GeForce Now somewhere in here. Manifest unavailable. Why this is doing something? Let's just check those local files. Maybe I corrupted something. Let's just verify that. Why that does it in the background. GeForce Now on Linux. Here you go. Yeah, so this is a little how-to article I wrote on how to get GeForce Now working through Linux. I even have a video on it if you're interested. Let me copy that. And bam. There's GeForce Now. So if you're interested in GeForce Now, you can use that. But let's see what's going on with old Cyberpunk. Manifest not available. That's interesting. All right, I think we got a little bit till it starts. I'm going to hit background. Available. I'm spelling that wrong, aren't I? Oh well. Google's smart enough to correct me. Maybe. Is there a Moonlight for AMD GPUs? You can continually use Moonlight. The actual server version for AMD GPUs is an open source project called Sunshine. So look up Sunshine in GitHub and you should have it. What is happening? Manifest unavailable. That sounds like something. Fix 1, change the download region. That shouldn't be it. Log out of account, log back in. Flush DNS. Windows firewall. Reinstall Steam. Okay. I got the gist of it. So if this still shows manifest unavailable, then we know it's something else. Okay, I guess that's not validated. Ah! Whoa. That's intense. Maybe I like have an old... Might have like an old process up open? Maybe. Let's just try that one more time. I did launch it a little funky. Ready to launch. Huh. No internet connection this time. Whoa. That is freaking out on me. All right, maybe. Ah. That is bad. What happened there? I might reboot. Whoa. All right, sorry. Let's see how our core install's going. I'll come back to that one. That was strange. Linux gaming is awesome. Let's get back to Wine. We got all our core fonts installed. Let's run Cinebench that we downloaded. Pay no attention to that. You can game in Linux, yes. Oh my goodness. All right, Wine. So we've installed a prefix. So if we do like a LA listing, or actually an LL listing, you see Cinebench here. This is the base structure that you get in Wine. Did I log in under Linus's account? Maybe. That was odd. Network Manager's up. You can just do like an NM online, and it'll show you if you're online or not. Or like, let's just ping like DNS servers. Like you can just ping like that. We're obviously online. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Steam, I might just refresh Steam. We'll try it after our Wine tutorial. I want to finish the Wine tutorial before I get too sidetracked. So this right here is what we've installed so far. This is a base bottle. It's 32-bit, and we're ready to run our program in here. So if we look back at our command, which we used to run, WineArc, we don't actually need to specify WineArc anymore, because if you're using this prefix, it's going to see it was set up as a 32-bit prefix. If you install something that you didn't mean to on here, pretty much just wipe it out, start over again. That's the downside to Wine. It's real finicky. That's why I say create a prefix for each program you use, not just one prefix to just run everything in, because eventually if you mess up that prefix, it'll mess up that program, all the programs in there. And if you just do one prefix per program, it makes it a little easier. All right, so we have Wine. We'll do that, but instead of Wine Tricks, we've installed fonts. Now we just go downloads. Let's come into there, and we're just gonna go downloads and look for Cinebench. What was that file it downloaded? Cinebench. Oh, let's extract this. So we need to extract all these files. Let's just put that in Cinebench, drive C, and did I take a look? What was the? Yeah, it looks like it has a whole bunch of files. Let's go ahead and create a folder in here, and we're gonna create this. Call it install, and we'll just extract them all there. That done. We'll just go Wine. Is that Cinebench? All right, we're in the Cinebench directory. Oh man, I can't remember the destruction. Oh yeah. So we just do Wine, drive C, install Cinebench exe. So we set WineArc, which we don't need to do anymore. We do need to specify what wine bottle or folder we're using that we set up. Wine, and that's the actual executable that's going to say, hey, this is a Wine compatibility. This is a Windows program that we're going to use. And then finally, we can put our Windows program. So this obviously did not work. It failed. Let's see. Any specification of why? Bad executable format. Oh, man. When things go wrong, they go wrong. Huh. Usually it goes into install. It should be 64-bit. Okay, yeah. All right, so this did not work. That's okay. We'll create a new one, and we'll just go. We won't do that Wine Tricks thing anymore. I'll show you something else we can do, too. We're just going to do Wine 64. And we're going to go Cinebench 64 for this one. We're just going to try and run it outright. All right, path not found, because I think all those files are actually in Cinebench, Drive C, install, and yeah. So we're just going to move this. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the prefix. You could just move it outside of it if you wanted, but for this, I like to kind of just at least toss it in it somewhere. And now I'm just gonna remove Cinebench. So now all we have is a Cinebench 64 bottle here. If we look, we got Cinebench right here, and then everything's Drive C. So let's try and run that one command again. Let's, oh, do I have it here? And then this is gonna actually be outside of this, but should launch something. Ah, okay. Accept. So you see how that was a white page? And we'll go full screen with this, just so we see something. Do we want to melt this CPU? I guess we'll do that. See how it works. This is a 5600. Let's see what the performance is in wine. The cool thing about this, though, if we look, running it in terminal is kind of nice because you can get error messages that you could Google or look up, which is actually kind of cool. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens when we're drawing. I mean, I think that's pretty good for it being a Windows program being emulated. Yeah, everybody, now that I'm reading chat, everybody's like, he's using a 32-bit prefix for 64-bit program. Again, use the proper format. Don't pull a Titus. Makes me wonder what my temps are. What do we got? Wow, that's running in the background. What do we got? LS sensors? No. Or maybe it's P sensor. Oh man, what is the sensor plugin? I don't think I have one on here. Sensors applet, X sensors, LM sensors. Yeah, LM sensors. LM sensors. Still pretty whisper quiet back there. I don't hear anything. So it's not working that too bad. Oh, let me just launch that again. Ah, what's just sensors? Yeah, sensors. Okay, here you go. Yeah, it's working some of that. There's a 74C. Nothing too crazy here. Still working on that Cinebench. It's not exactly melting that drive though. 70. I mean, those are pretty good under stress test here. So this is the network card. Man, my network card's really hot. NVMe, that's the storage. Storage is pretty good. K10 temp. That's I believe that's the CPU right here, running about 75C under a pretty good load. AMD GPU, that's our GPU. Obviously, GPU is not getting used by Cinebench. And then another NVMe right over here. And yeah, pretty nice. So we are seeing some traction here. But there's a Cinebench running. I think someone else wanted us to do Office too. Yeah, everything's rack mounted now. Every computer I own's in that rack. This is straight up Debian. How does Wine pick the user agent? Wine, I think, uses, is it Gecko? Or it's like a weird user agent that I think it emulates Internet Explorer. Could be wrong there, though. Alex, Chris, had you just not tried to make things hard, fonts not needed, Wine Arc not needed, could have just... Yeah. Frankly, Alex, you're right. For this 64-bit binary, frankly, I could have just done Wine space Cinebench exe, and it would have made the default folder, or the default bottle, which is .wine. It's a hidden folder called .wine, and that's 64-bit by default. I wanted to show you, though, even though I did make it more difficult, I wanted to show you those extra settings because there's going to be programs that are like Winamp that are 32-bit. Is Winamp still around? I don't know. But there's going to be 32-bit old programs that you want to run through Wine, and that's when you need to do Wine Arc, and you need to do Wine prefix to set that specific directory, which is pretty cool. What is a typical 5600? So I probably would, let's go to, yeah, this right here, this is like a 4th gen i7. So we should be placing right in the, I would say the 5600 should be in this area. I'd expect a score of, see, this is some weird artifacting you get sometimes in Wine. It's just, it doesn't render properly. Sometimes you can fix that with installing a font pack. Sometimes it utilizes like DirectX and you need to install that. But this looks intermediate, so Wine's not always a great solution. But yeah, I'm curious to see the performance loss here. I would imagine this being around a 20, probably around a 16 to 20,000 score. Maybe less, but definitely around the 8,000 range at least. Winamp, it really whips the llamas. Going retro here. How inefficient is Wine? How much overhead does it consume? Good questions. It depends on the task. This is a very heavy compute task. Obviously, it's Cinebench. And my question here is, after the full 10-minute multi-core thing, where's it going to bench? It should really benchmark somewhere between probably 8,000 and 16,000 based on the rankings on the left-hand side here. I don't know, though. I have never done a 5600 test. So probably what we should do is bench it here, reboot into Windows that isn't using an emulation layer, and then run Cinebench over there. And then we can compare Wine performance to Windows performance and see exactly what we get. Winamp doesn't require it either. Winamp's got a 64-bit binary as well. That's awesome. Yeah, it is faster than the 1700X by quite a bit. Nice. Yeah, so I think really it should be around 20,000, I'm thinking. But we really won't know until we reboot into Windows and run the same test in multi-core and see what we get. Oh, here. Thanks for reminding me there, Basil. Let me look back. It lists all the super chats. Yeah, I answered the Vim one. Just use Nano. Learning Vim is just for bragging rights. Once you learn Vim, it is more efficient. It is a lot more efficient than Nano. Vim, it's easier to get in. It's easier to navigate. I can show a little bit. Why do people use Vim? I think I'm probably not the best person to do this, but let me give it the old college try here. So Vim, let's just Vim into BSP. Why would you use Vim, right? Everyone uses Nano. This is Vim. So like, let's say you wanted to change line 20. So I know I could do 20J and I'm immediately over to that line. Instead of having to like, let me arrow down 20. Okay, no. Or let's say I want to go to variable defines at the very top. That's 33. So if I go 33K, I'm here. Let's say I want to delete this line. It's deleted. Let me say I want to undo that. I can just press U to undo. Let's say I want to save it out. Shift ZZ. It's saved. Vim can be very powerful. As somewhat of a newbie on Vim, that's where I'm at. Now, let's do Nano. Do I even have Nano installed? Okay, good. Let me go nano.config bspwm bspwmrc. All right, let's delete this line. Control X. Oops. It's been a while since I used Nano. Control X is dead. But I think you can do Control K to cut. Control U to paste. Not bad. Now let's come down to this line, and everything's controlled with like delete and backspace and arrow keys. So it's not to say Nano's bad. It's just a little tedious. I mean, you can go to line. I think it's like Control / and then do line 4, and then it moves to that line. So you can still do the same thing in Nano. It does a little bit better with the documentation, but Vim is a little more friendly on the keyboard, and you're able to move around faster once you get comfortable with it. But Vim has a massive learning curve to where you'll be so much more inefficient starting off. So differences between Nano and Vim, I think both have their time and place, but to say Vim is just for bragging rights, Basil, I'm going to just say, nah, man. Vim's legit, man. It has its own deal, man. How are we doing over here? All right, we scored 10,050 on this Cinebench, by the way. And you use Kate. Kate's not bad. I like Codium or VS Code better than Kate, though. Just my 2 cents. I like all the extensions in those. So we're at a 10,525. Now let's reboot into Windows and run the same thing. Yeah, Control K to delete the line. I like Vim. I really do. I've really grown to love Vim. It can be so powerful, and it makes you feel awesome once you learn it. But it only takes, you just need to dedicate it. Here's my sales pitch for Vim. I'm gonna go full screen for this one. My sales pitch for Vim is this: if you just had 6 months to an entire year to just really learn it and get comfortable with it, it's amazing. But the big gotcha there is 6 months to a year. It isn't for the faint of heart. Also, if you like pain, that first 6 months, you're going to really enjoy life. But it is very rewarding. Vim is very rewarding. So that's my sales pitch on Vim. If you really like pain, jump right into it. It'll be horrible. And then once you finally get over it, after about 6 hard months of just slogging along, or you could go through the Vim tutor and really start writing things down and being a lot more efficient than I was, you can get to a point that is very nice. And then after a year or two, you just will become a complete Vim fanboy, and everyone else is just a bunch of cavemen using their graphic user editors. But yes, once you get going. All right, so we got around 10,500 on this one. Let's just reboot now into Windows. When you have a GitHub project in Vim asking for help in your crickets. Yeah. The Vim community can be a little hostile at times. Vim sounds like a relaxing experience. Yeah, Vim's like that game Getting Over It or Pogo Stuck. Except for developers. It's amazing once you get good at it, but until that time, life can be a little bit challenging. All right, what do we got? Cinebench, right? Yeah, we'll just use TechSpot and grab this one. Learn from the Primogen. Yeah, he's the Vim master. He's god of Vim. I always mention him. He's great. Yeah, a lot of Emacs people. I now that's one I haven't learned or understood yet. I really need to get into Doom Emacs. How to copy from buffer in Vim. Usually I create like a little hotkey that I can go into. All right, we got about a couple minutes on the downloader on our Cinebench, and we'll start running that as well. Let's see what chat's up to. Yeah. What was it? I was watching, I even said it in my reaction video on the Linus Tech Tips thing. I was like, oh, I think it was Luke. He was like, I really want the Linux community to like me. And I was like, oh, you poor man. You don't know the Linux community. The beauty of the Linux community is it's this massive melting pot of techs and computer folk that it's just rife with landmines that no matter where you step, you're gonna make someone mad. And that's just like the Linux community in general. It's just no matter what you do, you're gonna end up pissing somebody off. And I love Linux for it. I mean, it's such a unique experience. But like just this talk about like Vim versus Emacs, or hey, my distro's versus your distro, or whatever it might be. It's all in good fun at the end of the day. At least I don't take offense to it. It's just how things are. But it's just neat to have that opinion. Like, what do Windows users fight over? Notepad++ versus regular Notepad? I mean, one, you're a caveman if you use regular Notepad. But some people just are like, I can't be bothered to install Notepad++. But like in Linux, you have to make a conscious effort to choose an editor. Are you going to choose Vim? Are you going to choose Nano? Are you going to choose Emacs? Are you going to use, there's a lot of different, so many options. You have like 20 different communities like fighting each other for whatever it is. In Windows, you have like the basic user using Notepad, and then you have the more power user using like Notepad++, and then you have like the dev using VS Code. And that's just like the groups in Windows, where you have a little bit more going on in Linux. And I love that. So even though sometimes I'm like, I can't believe the Linux community's got, upset about this, it's kind of the beauty of the Linux community too. Yeah, that actually does work pretty well in Wine. We should have installed Notepad++ in Wine. Alex, thanks for the super chat, man. Best editor is the 4 key in MC. Oh, yeah. Sublime text. How could I forget Sublime, man? Ah, fired. All right. I think we're ready for our install of Cinebench. Let's see. Oh, wait. No, let's extract. Oh, kid dokey. Best editor said. Yeah. How you can tell you're an elitist if you don't use said or awk. Probably even saying that wrong. So right now we're trying to run Cinebench in Windows because we ran it in a Wine emulation. Well, it's not emulation, but a Wine compatibility later in Linux. We scored about 10,500. So now we're going to run Cinebench in Windows. And we're just going to hit start. So we want this. How much performance do we lose by using Wine in Linux compared to running this natively in Windows? And that's really what we're trying out here. How much worse is this? I don't know. We got to wait the 10 minutes and see. Ben, I think your script may be vorked. Used it to install and everything was fine, but when I tried booting into Arch Linux, it hang and loading Arch Linux never started. We can give it a whirl. I think it's fine though. It's been a little bit. I need to do the testing branch. Ben, if you really are still doing that Arch Linux script, there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm still testing out that I need to go over and do another test. I've just been kind of busy with my other little Debian project. Yeah, I mean, native Windows apps are going to work better in Windows. They're going to be easier to install in Windows. There is no doubt in my mind about that. That's like gaming is mostly easier in Windows. I say mostly because like there's some old legacy games that don't technically work all that well on newer versions of Windows. And it's actually a little easier in Linux. I think Fallout 3 was one game. Which we could actually install Fallout 3. I love that game. Love Fallout 3. We should try that in Linux next. Since Cyberpunk was having problems. I don't know what is up with that. Hey, Rux, you're in chat. All right, man. Wait. While we wait on Cinebench, we got about 8 minutes. Let's talk with chat here for a second. Yeah, I think I don't really have any of the Adobe suite. That's my problem. I've moved completely off Adobe. I don't even have an old version of Photoshop, I don't think. I think I might like have an old hacked version of like Photoshop something. Like maybe CC? Can't remember. Command line elitism. Yeah. Actually, you know, this is probably not going to help with the elitism because this is me being a little elitist. But sometimes I really enjoy just the CLI. Just staying in the CLI, not having the GUI. There's some beauty in some of the things. Some of the things. Some things, not so much. Just depends. Yeah, I mean, you kind of want a little bit of a longer benchmark here just because you can have a lot of variance. So 10-minute benchmarks actually on the lower end of the scale. Most benchmarks, like when you see like the big YouTubers doing benchmark results, usually they spend a day, a really long day, like at least 8 to 10 hours running those benchmarks. It's not like a 5 or 10 or 30-minute process. It's, you know, each benchmark can take 30 to 60 minutes, and usually you're running anywhere from a dozen to, you know, a couple dozen tests. So a lot of benchmarking can be a little bit crazy. Oh, the CC Photoshop install, Michael? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they make like a portable edition, and I don't think those are legit. I think that's like the hack copy. Yeah, I think they're leaving the dislike button, but I don't think you can see the count on the dislike button. So you can still dislike videos. It's just you can't, like, I guess, attack it like a mob or something like that. I don't know. Frankly, I don't really care. I mean, I was like, oh, they're removing the dislike button. That seems silly, but whatever. YouTube being YouTube. CLI versus or GUI. Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm installing something, I like the CLI. I think the CLI is just a better experience for installing programs. But GUI can be really nice. Like how we set up Cinebench is a good example of like the GUI being better, because you extract, you copy that files over to a folder, you run that executable. There's a lot of different tasks you're doing in a smaller time frame, and the point and click just suits it better. So there's times where the CLI is better, there's times where the GUI is better. It's just a preference thing. There was actually a community uproar over the GIMP versus Glimpse thing. They actually made a fork of GIMP, and all they did was change the name to Glimpse. Frankly, I don't know why that was a thing. Linux, like, the weird thing about Linux people is like they pick the weirdest hills to die on. Like, that's like a terrible hill to die on. GIMP is, I don't think we have to really say this. GIMP is a terrible name for a software. Like, Wine is a terrible name for a software. Like, GNU is the absolute worst epitome of a terrible name. And then, like, Linux people defend it like, oh my gosh, like you insulted their mother or something. And yeah, they just need to change the name. Glimpse is a better name. Glimpse is a visual name, and that means like, oh, Glimpse, oh, and it edits graphics. That's better from a marketing perspective. Could you imagine like a multi-million-dollar company going, we should name this new product GIMP? That's a good name. And then there's going to be somebody like an intern there going, that's can be considered a derogatory term towards a disabled person. They'd be like, oh, well, let's not name it that then. Let's name it something different. Yeah, but the Linux community ain't having that. Oh, gosh. That's like the whole like GNU/Linux. Wow, it's called GNU/Linux. I'm like, you sound completely stupid. Like, I can't think of a more unintelligible thing to say. But we're paying homage to the person that did here. And I'm like, yeah, man, yeah. I mean, you're really just trying to scare people at this point. Like I said, some Linux people pick the weirdest hills to die on for that absolutely just have doesn't matter at all. It was just crazy. Just like, ugh. So beat down by that. No, I removed Odyssey. I think it's still over there. I just like put it on hold. Odyssey just got weird, and I was just like, I'm not syncing over there anymore. I may return at some point in time. I get asked about Odyssey a lot. I'm just like, maybe eventually I'll start it back up. But right now I'm just like, it's kind of pointless for me. Apt or Pac-Man? Oh, I like Apt better. I think it's just because I'm more familiar with it. The thing about Pac-Man is the syntax is a little funky. Like dash uppercase S to install a package, dash uppercase S with lowercase s to search a package, where apt is apt install package name. apt find package name. Apt, I mean, you get the idea. I think it's actually apt list to list the packages. It's just the syntax of Pac-Man that just is bonkers. I like it as a package manager though. It's just the syntax I have problems with. Don't be so English centric. The world runs on English, man. And I don't even speak very good English. I almost failed my English class, man. I think I actually did do like a spin-off of Lunduke's Linux Sucks series, which is kind of funny. Ugh. Ever thought of messing with Mint? Yeah, Mint's actually, like, if I didn't do what I do, which is mess up stuff for a living, I like to just kind of go all over the place. If I just wanted a stable experience, Mint is where it's at. Oh, here we go, guys. We're getting close to the end. The final run. What are we at? Is it more than 10,500? Yes! Take that, Windows users! Windows 11 is slower in Cinebench than wine. You guys saw it first, right here, on the YouTubes. What? What happened there? How'd wine perform better than Windows 11 Cinebench? What? Wow. I mean, I don't have Windows 10. Wow. Well, there you go. Linux is obviously better than Windows. I mean, you can't deny that's pretty crazy that they put it through a compatibility layer running a Windows program for benchmarking CPU performance, and it literally performed better in Linux than its native environment in Windows. And everybody saw all along there was no trickery there. It was a long test. That's wild. I guess just less overhead. I think I've optimized this Windows 11. Let me see. I think I'm like at one. Now, what are we at? 200 processes. But still. That's pretty wild. Like, I've already run my tool. I already removed a lot of stuff from there. I've already optimized that. So, I don't know. That's wild. That is crazy. That's awesome, though. Oh, man. Oh, thanks so much for the super chat, guys. Oh, my gosh. Viva Linux. Oh my gosh. That's just super impressive. That's just, oh wow. I almost want to rerun it in Linux just to see if we can get the 10,500 again. Let's do that. I know some people are like, it's boring. It's just benchmarks. But man, that just seems so crazy to me. Let's rerun it. John says, thanks for the super chat. Installed Ubuntu. Only thing I can't solve myself is installing Kingston Works for my trackball mouse after Googling it. John, let's try to install that real fast after our Cinebench. That is wild. The Windows score was 10,383. So, I mean, it wasn't like a lot less. It was just like 100 or so less. Oh, crap. I just booted back into Windows, didn't I? All right, let's go restart. Restart anyways. Oh, yeah. Cyberbug 2077 bombed out on me, too. Yeah, you know. It happens. WSL2 is slower than a true Linux kernel. Yeah. It's getting close, though. I will say WSL2 with WSLG is getting very close from that perspective. I know I was doing some benchmarking, and WSL in some instances can come out ahead from true Linux when it comes to installing packages and other things, because there's no init system in WSL. Just like I think why Windows scored a little bit less than Cinebench is because there's just less overhead, which is kind of wild to think about. But WSL has almost no overhead when it's running a lot of times, and it's able to install packages a little bit quicker. But for the most part, WSL is slower than the true Linux counterpart. Much less buggier too. You do get some funky bugs in WSL. Yeah, no Go XLR. That's not going to work, and there's no way that's ever going to work on Linux. Unless Go XLR, which I don't see Go XLR ever coming to Linux. The people that made the Go XLR for that company, I think, have already left the company, and a lot of the development has stalled on the Go XLR. So I think the Go XLR is kind of just frozen in time right now, and it's only getting like skeleton maintenance done. And that's why I'm like, I just don't ever see Go XLR working in Linux. Sad to say. I mean, it's a great device. Favorite terminal, Kitty. Kitty is now my new fave. Oh yeah, we're doing Cinebench, right? Does that work? Cinebench. All right. I just am curious on this. Now, someone, what was it? Above, someone wanted to know why this runs. I'm going to download some stuff. Like, I just left Windows alone. We're going to give Windows every advantage to succeed here. Let's download Kingston trackball software. That's a good little thing. I like real world attempts here. Is there like a tool here? The Kingston works. I've never even seen this. Anybody ever use Kingston trackballs? All right, cool. Download the software. What do we got? All right, Kingston works. Then we'll grab this MSI. I think for MSIs, we got to do something a little differently in Wine, if I remember. I don't think we can just do Wine space MSI. I think we have to do something a little bit weirder. So let's just do, we can try it. Let's just try Wine. Let's just do Wine prefix equals, and we'll just do Kingston and Wine downloads. Oh, Kingston works. Oh, my bad. Yeah, it can run MSIs. I just think there was like an extra, I think it was like a dash E or something. I can't remember. There's like, I swear there was something else here. I'll just try and run it with through wine without any options first. All right, let's try to set this up. Agree, next, install. All right, what do we got? Helper program termination. Cancel to start wine debugger. Okay, cancel. Is it missing something here? All right, Kingston Works helper. Oh, wait. I think I see it. Usually I look for errors like here. Library shim. Failed to load these. So usually what I would do on this is just to look at that. Oh, 32-bit. I think this needs 32-bit. And I believe, did we do a 32-bit on this one? I don't think we did. Let's do a wine CFG. You guys know wine tricks, but there's also wine CFG. Let's take a peek at this. Set for Windows 7. This kind of gives you a little bit of different. You can change the theming a little bit. Graphics. Libraries. Nothing too crazy here. I don't think there's really anything in here. So now let's take a peek inside that wine bottle. Oh, well, System 32 is 64-bit. Okay, we're fine. Kingston. It's not memory, Chris. All right, where did it install next is the big thing. Program. Not here. Let's go. Let's go. Ah! Oops. Special character again. My bad. There it is. Kensington. If anybody from the UK is watching this, I'm sorry. I mean, just butchering it. All right. All right, there's Kensington Works 2. Now we should be able to just, right, come back and do our wine prefix. Let's go wine, Kensington 2. What do we get in here? JavaScript error. Electron, JS2C. I thought Electron was pretty native. I thought we could go universal with Electron. I know, didn't Discord run off Electron? I could be 100% wrong, Tom. Yeah, this looks to be... We could install Java in this as well. Atom ID is Electron. Discord's Electron. I'm pretty sure we could get this to work. Popping in and out. Is my audio popping in and out? Oh, well, thanks for stopping by, Shiro. Oh, good, because we were having problems last stream with the audio. And at the beginning of this stream, I went full chipmunk mode. Yeah, so someone had like a weird Windows program that we were trying to use. Kensington Works. It's for trackballs. I've never seen it before. And I was like, well, I never tried to run that. Let's see what happens. So the next thing is, let's just look at... Let's see what Kensington Linux wine. I should put Kensington Works. Oh, this guy's having you modify the Xorg config. Eesh. I don't think anybody's getting that working. Under wine. That's not a good solution. What if we... Yeah, this is Polybar. I was grabbing and modding out... This is a Debian Polybar, but I was modding out Barbarossa's genome project from GitHub, and then just doing some slight modifications to make it all work. Same JavaScript errors, okay. Bedrock Linux and me do not get along. Max. There's no way I'm trying Bedrock again. I'm done. Yeah, we could do lib input and some other stuff, or just do a modification to Xorg, but people want the GUI element to see what's happening, interfacing with the device. You know what? I have a Digma Rise. We could try that out. What's that look like? Let's go. I wonder if it... I haven't even tried it. Rise? I grabbed this keyboard. It's pretty cool. I like it. It's like a noob's split keyboard. It's not ortholinear, but you can actually put it together like a regular keyboard. It's actually nice. There we go. The most advanced. Yeah. Most people for ergonomics are going to want the ortholinear for typists, but not me. Not me. Well, let's get the software. Oh, wait, they have Linux software. How did I not? I didn't even try. Okay, never mind. Well, this is going to work. Oh. Sudo chmod executable. I guess I can get rid of this. Let's just put this in and take that over here. Oh, I can't believe they had a little Linux module. See, Linux is getting a little more support. Install. Okay. Is that gonna work? Connect. That's cool. All right, neat. Well, that works. Ah. Neat. I wanted to change this around anyways. Let's just take this out. Key config. We're gonna take that out. No, key config. I actually wanted to switch this with a delete command. It's been bugging me. And I want to change the color. And we're gonna change this one. Now, Control Alt key config. Let's go F1. And we'll change that to a purple. What's this? I guess I can leave those the same. Control Alt. I like to kind of Control Alt so I can get in and out of my TTY real quick. So like if I'm sitting here, I can. Well, let me save this. Submit. All right, cool. It changed. So now I can just boom, boom, TTY, or switch over to this TTY, TTI 1, 2, and then back to here. Cool. Nice. All right. Well, anyways, I was going to show you more wine stuff, but it's nice when it's just native. When it's actually made for Linux, it works pretty well. Oh, I love that. It's so fun. It's so fun. All right, back to what we were doing. The Kingdom Rise. That was funky. All right, should we do one last command? Let's see, it's 3:30. Yeah, let's see if the Cinebench we can replicate those scores. Can it beat the 10,380 score that Windows did again, or was it a fluke? I mean, that's a question. Let's go. I think it was just Cinebench, right? There was no installer here. Yeah. So we'll go wine prefix equals / Cinebench 64 wine Cinebench. Push this to probably workspace 2. Or did we already do a workspace? I can't remember. Do we have a workspace? No, I guess we didn't. Okay, let's start this. All right, let's hit up chat. I'm gonna let this run in the background again. Let's see what happens. See if any good questions we got on chat here. Have you ever done anything with Hackintosh? Yeah, I did an entire video over OpenCore. OpenCore is awesome. Although I think the whole project's gonna die off as the M1 chips are gonna force out, and eventually they're gonna not support Intel chips and x86 architecture at all anymore. What's the situation? So right now, I think we did earlier in the stream, we looked at wine, did a little bit of a wine tutorial, and we've been doing wine Cinebench testing between Windows and Linux. Linux scored a 10,500, I think, and then Windows scored a 10,380. So it was 120 points lower on Windows, and now I'm just like letting it run again in the background, which to me, I'm like, what? This is a Windows program. It should perform better in Windows, not worse. So that was a little weird, especially because it's a benchmark program at that too. That's what's up right now. Cyberbug time. Oh yeah. Well, let's finish this render test and see if we can't figure out what happened with the old Cyberbug. I don't know. That's weird. My personal favorite keyboard is the IBM Rapid Access keyboard. Had 3 of them. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, yeah, once you find like a good keyboard, it's hard to ever switch. Probably one of my favorite keyboards, and you guys are going to think less of me by telling you this, but I really enjoyed this keyboard. It was the Logitech G110. I had like my own custom bindings. I had that keyboard for the longest time, and that was fun. It was a good keyboard, but not mechanical. On any of my keyboards, I always hate the feedback or the clicky. Right now, this is a mechanical keyboard, but it's linear keys, I think, to where it's basically as quiet as you can get on a mechanical keyboard. Yeah, I'm using Debian right now. I love Debian. Debian's so good. We might need to break something before we leave Steam. Well, let's hit up some gaming, and we can do some breakage in the cyberpunk realm for sure. I would have to say Hackintosh is going to be a dead community. Give it about 3 years. Apple's so good at just eliminating any kind of competition or things that go outside of the walled garden. They're so good at capturing all the money. Gotta admire it. Maintenance tips for Arch. Don't use the AUR. That's my tip. AUR bad. AUR evil. It's bad for you. It'll kill your Arch. But it's so easy for new users to use the AUR. That's like the selling point of Arch a lot of times. Not my selling point, but just not use the AUR. You'll be fine. Also, update at least every couple weeks. If you don't go like a month or two and you haven't updated your Arch, yeah, it's going to be a bad time. Can you make G-Hub work on Linux? GitHub Desktop, maybe? I use GitHub Desktop all the time. It's really good. Can you do Moonlight Host on Fedora? I think so. Thanks so much for the donation there, John. So I take it that it can't be done. I would say, I never say can't be done, but probably not worth doing. And what I mean by that is you probably will have a better time configuring your mouse using lib input or just doing a direct edit to Xorg. So then once you have everything set up just the way you want it, you save those comp files out. And instead of using a program to interface with your trackball, you would use a specific config that's built into Linux to utilize the trackball. So that's kind of like the answer. It's not great. Honestly, the Kensington Works app, it's nice just having that GUI and then clicking the buttons like I did with my keyboard to get it going. But at the end of the day, John, I would say you're going to have to suffer a little bit in that configuration realm to get all those things done. Lib input is an interesting thing because you'll need to map out all the keys manually in the CLI. And the command line's not the kindest thing. It's so much easier when you have a GUI reference. But before I give up completely on that, John, there's one idea here. One more idea I just had. Let's see. There's one thing I like to do when I run into something like that. Instead of saying, just use it, just do it through the CLI. It's Kensington Works open source. Sometimes it's not your mouse config tool. Oh, I think someone was actually using Kensington Works to like hack a computer, I think. Oh, yeah. These shoddy design choices from Kensington. Okay, yeah. That's just bashing on Kensington Works. But sometimes there is somebody that does a workaround. Nah. Let's try GitHub, maybe. Sometimes someone might make a config and then give you that, and then you might be able to take that for... Nope. Not much here, man. All right, yeah, that's not, there's not much there. Trackball. You might try something like this usually. So you do like an X input list. It kind of shows all the different buttons and stuff that's available. And then you usually you can dive into here And this is basically how you'd start setting it up. This is using xinput or xorg and doing it this method. Not great. Not a great solution. But it's, I mean, it's something. I mean, that's, I wish I could help you more there, John. Alex, thanks for the donation. It's precisely why I don't use Arch. That's fair. I agree with this. Clint makes a good point. You can use the AUR for the occasional package, like real popular stuff like Discord. Use the AUR all day long. But for the more obscure stuff, stay away. I think that's a good point. Used sparingly. It's like a nice spice in the kitchen. Just don't overdo it. Oh yeah. Like I said, Arch is its own thing. You can do Arch right. I would say for a newbie, get Time Shift or Snapper or whatever you want to use for your backups. Have good backups, and then you get a good thing for it. Both have their own place. I love Arch. I love Debian. I think Debian's obviously more stable, a little bit more of a solid disk, like just for basic use. But Arch has a really nice repositories where you can install pretty much whatever you want. So I love Arch and I love Debian. They're just meant for two different types of users. For the gamers and stuff out there, I tend to lean towards Arch for like hardcore gaming or things that are like more cutting edge. I think that's a good way to put it. Wait, what? There's like a gajillion terminal emulators. Out of all the things, that's it? Gave up on Linux due to a lack of good term. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I would like to view W3M Ranger with transparency on. Nothing works after termite. Try Kitty. I mean, I haven't run into any problems with Kitty. I was using Terminator for the longest time. Terminator's good for it's appreciated now, but Kitty's what I'm using, and I haven't ever run into a problem with that. I mean, of all the things, Linux has probably the most terminal emulators. I'm shocked by that one. Usually I can agree with a lot of stuff, but that one I have a hard time. Do you ever think Xorg will fade away over Wayland and Xorg will die? No. I mean, maybe in like 20 years? Or 10 years, maybe? Nah, not 10 years. 20 years. 2 decades. I'll be 60. I'll be my hair will be solid white before that happens. If I have hair. I'm still alive, hopefully. But yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Wayland I still am not impressed with Wayland. I still use Xorg every chance I get. Building from source typically always gives a more stable environment, and you'll always get the most up-to-date. Or if, let's say, something's missing, it just, you're like, oh, okay, I need this package or figure out this dependency. It forces you to make sure it's compatible, which is nice. I always get the Yay versus Paru for the Arch people out there. I still like Yay. Paru's fine, though. I mean, it's not, like, wrong. There's no way in hell I'm ever going to Gen 2. Ain't nobody got time for that. No way. You can do hardcore gaming on rolling Debian. Yeah, rolling Debian. Like what I'm doing right now is a rolling Debian, Michael. It's just most Debian's more on the stable side of things. And what I find too many people doing so I already told everyone AUR is where people mess up an Arch. Let's talk about where people mess up on Debian, because this is an important one too. Whether it's Linux Mint, Elementary, Pop OS, you name it, right? Ubuntu, all of these are Debian based. And where people mess up is they'll add, and I kid you not, there are people out there that add 20 repositories to Debian. you're doing it wrong. That's just as bad as someone going and installing 20 things from the AUR. You add 20 repositories to Debian, and now you've made your system just as unstable as Arch. In my opinion, there's no difference between the two. So don't overdo the repositories. And if you are using multiple repositories, just make sure it's not a repository that has like graphics drivers and system utilities, and then you run it all like dependency hell, and you're like, oh, well, the system goes to update, and it's like, oh, well, here's an Xorg driver, and I could install 5 different versions from the 5 different repositories you've installed. See the problem? Don't install too many repositories. You're relying on apt to basically go, okay, this is the repository I want. It's not good. So too many repositories in Debian is a big downfall. Don't do that. I like Debian, and I like Debian Sit, and I like Arch. But it's really important to understand the downfalls or the pitfalls people fall into when they use both. Because just saying blanket, hey, this is stable over here. It's important to know, I've done everything you can do to break every distro out there, short of installing Steam without updating. That was a new one. Yes, do as I say. That was a good one. I love it. How long do you think the community is going to hang on that one? It's going to be a meme for years, I think. It's so great. Don't use Yay and Pac-Man interchangeably. Yeah, I mean, when in doubt, use Pac-Man first, and then if the package isn't there, then you might go to Yay. But I agree with that. You really do want to use Pac-Man more. I find myself a little bit lazy in using Yay a little bit more interchangeably than I should, just because I'm lazy and I don't want to type the 3 extra words or 3 extra letters. I just want to type Yay. So that's not good. It's a bad habit I have. So shh, don't tell anybody. Oh, cool. I love that. Steam does not uninstall Plasma and Arch, period. Okay, well, Steam uninstalled GNOME on Pop OS, and that was because of a modification System 76 made to apt, from my knowledge. I forgot I added all those emotes. I think that's the only person that's ever used them. I know, it's so bad. And probably the funniest thing about it was like the Linux community's reaction to Linus. They're like, he's just a shill. I'm like, guys, come on. If you install Steam, it really shouldn't uninstall your entire desktop. That's not Linus's bad. That is totally on the distro at that point. But it was kind of funny. I think even, wasn't there a tweet from System 76 that was real snarky towards Linus about the whole thing? They were a little bit sour. But yeah, it was like a PR nightmare. I don't think they handled it all that great, but yes, they should have just came up and be like, we effed up. Sorry, guys. I mean, it's just so weird because that whole thing was just, it was such an obscure bug. Career in Linux. You need to know Windows. That's a big thing I tell Linux folks. Don't just focus on Linux. Knowing Linux is good. It's important. But you need to know Windows. You need to know Linux. You need to know Mac. Even Mac. Mac's like a third place. It's like, yeah, it's not that important. But it's just good to know all three. I think, honestly, you do need to know all three. Every operating system has its time and place. Good to put. Feelings on the newest... Man, you're asking the guy that called Ubuntu the devil what their newest distribution and how terrible they're doing to comment on it. Oh, man, I'm trying to be nice here. Oh, let me think of something good to say. Yeah, just don't use Ubuntu. Yeah. I mean, if you like pain, install Ubuntu 21. I think that's about as nice as I can be. Oh, wait, the Cinebench results. I just saw chat. Yeah, buddy. 10-5-4-1. Yeah, I think we scored higher than last time. That's almost another 200 points above Windows. Hot damn. So there you guys go. You heard it here first. Wine's faster than Windows. On a Windows app. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, System 76 fixed that bug. Like I said, it was such an obscure thing between Linus and all that. Hot dog, man. Look at that, though. That is wild. Not a fluke. Do remember mentioning in one video that Yay is more or less Pac-Man Plus. Encourage. Oh, hell. Well, Ben, I don't know. Maybe I was drinking when I made that video. But yes, installing a bunch of stuff through the AUR is not good. Obviously, Pac-Man, you want to install it directly from the repository and not build from source. And if you do use Pac-Man, I encourage you, whether to use a package like package name-bin or package name-git. Git is going to have you build the package. Bin is already using precompiled binaries, less things to go wrong, really, and it installs faster. You usually want to do the -bin. So if you do use the AUR, I would say that too. That's funny, though. Yeah, no. I was wrong if I said that. Pop is great. You know, I like Pop OS. Actually, it was one of my very first series I ever did going from Windows to Linux. I actually recommended Pop OS with a caveat. So back in those days, I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much. And during that series, I did say to install KDE Plasma using Pop OS and then switch the desktop environment to a noob. Could you imagine? Like, I don't know what I was thinking on that one. But I do kind of remember my thought process a little bit. And my whole thought process between installing Pop OS and then installing KDE and then switching the desktop environment was to show people that just getting to Linux that you can change everything. So you have this pretty GNOME desktop environment. But then you switch it to KDE and it would just blow your mind, I think, as a noob. And that's why I showed in that initial series how to switch your desktop environment without switching your distro, is I wanted more people to kind of go under the hood and switch some of these bigger components out. And I was using Pop OS to switch to Pop OS with KDE. And that was my first Windows to Linux series. And that was my thought process because I wanted people to stop distro hopping. Oh, chat's scrolling. 21's pretty bad. Yeah, it was. Stop drinking. Wait, you're Russian, aren't you? No, that's such a bad stereotype. But Alex, I would say I don't really drink too much, except on Fridays, sometimes on Wednesdays, sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays too. Just depends on what's going on. So, but light, not every day. Watch that come back to bite me if I ever had like a healthcare and interview. Well, on this live stream, you said, they'd have to dig like 3 hours in. They ain't finding that. GNOME and GT. So GNOME is a desktop environment. That's like all the components that make the desktop, right? You know, like the start bar and the settings menu and all that stuff's like bundled together makes the desktop environment. And then GTK is like the tools that are used to build some of those graphics. So you got GTK, you have Qt, you have, there's a couple others out there too, but GTK and Qt are the big ones. GNOME uses GTK to draw things. GTK has like this distinct look. That's why stuff made in GNOME looks a certain way. And then you have Qt, which is another tool set that's used to build it. And KDE uses it. So you kind of notice the difference between KDE and Qt or GTK. They look very different, and kind of getting that theming to match is difficult. Irony is I can't drink. Well, sometimes, hey. Can you recommend trying a trackball? John, I'll try a trackball. Because right now, I'm using this right here. I mean, this mouse is okay, mind you. I switch between 3 computers using it. But I could try a trackball. I'm really getting into the split keyboard, and ergonomics is, as I get older, ergonomics is a big deal to me because I've been on a computer for, 8 to 12 hours a day for, I think since I was 16, maybe 14, 15. I mean, I've been on a computer a lot. I've always been a big computer nerd. And before it was my profession, I was still on a computer all the time. So I'm starting to feel the effects of the bad ergonomics. That's why I switched to the split, which I liked. And now I'll try a trackball. Well, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on John and I'll go full ergo and then make a video about it. Yeah, theming, I think they do a good job with the options of theming, but it's like, I don't know. There's some stuff about them that's very, bugs me. The biggest thing is how they do extensions. That's where I always have the biggest gripes. Yeah, KDE had a bad slew. I think it was like KDE 3 and 4. It was before my time with desktop Linux. I know some of the vets out there had they had a bad slew. I think it was like 3.5 or something. I remember watching some kind of video on that, but the recent versions of KDE have been very, very good though. Trackballs were Betty. Yeah, I need to get on. I'll try a trackball though. Yeah, you can install a trackball and it can work without, but like with the Kensington one, like John had, was after a deeper dive, you had to go in and like manually edit, like use an X input and making the edits directly to Xorg to map everything. That's a bit much. That's a bit much. So I'll get a trackball and see what we can do, because I've always wanted to try really a trackball, give it an honest effort. What do we got? Logitech MX Ergo trackball feels pretty nice. I'll try that one. I like Logitech. I do like Logitech as a brand. I've always loved Logitech. My Ergo keyboard's a Digma Rise. I think I watched a couple of YouTube videos where they obviously just got sent the product, but I just like the look of it. And I was like, I wanted something because I still jump around. I still have a day job, still doing that stuff, and I still jump around on my keyboards. And I really, when I go work on other people's systems, I don't want to be stuck and be like, well, let me hook up my keyboard real fast. I need my ortholinear layout. I mean, that'd be pretty elitist of me, and I kind of love that idea. But I still want to be able to use the offset keys and a regular QWERTY keyboard with how that's laid out without having my own custom. So that's why I want the Digma Rise, because it's still got the offset keys. You can actually put it together so it is a regular keyboard, and it looks cool. And that's really the difference. Obviously, the look is the most important. Twister OS UI. I have not tried that out. I'm always interested to see new layouts and things I haven't seen before. Yeah, you got to have you definitely have to have a mouse that fits your hand. Using a small mouse will really be problematic. Another tip where I had a problem with my hand with my mouse was, oh, all right, right here. So when I was doing Diablo or AP, I would just be like holding this button down over and over and over and over. Instead, what you do is you map the scroll up and scroll down buttons. So when you're moving in game, you map this to left click. You can use auto hotkey. You can use a variety of different things for ARPGs. So then when you move, instead of doing a hold down like this, I could feel it in my wrist. So instead you move with your middle finger. So you're doing this a little bit better. And it makes actually movement in ARPGs a lot better because ARPGs can lead to some very bad injuries. I kid you not. I mean, that's such a nerdy thing to say, but ARPGs can lead to some bad injuries for those gamers out there. So left click, rebinding your left click to the scroll mouse, I found was a lot better I think I did that in Diablo and also Path of Exile. Whatever happened to Cyberpunk? Let's give that a shot real fast. 4 o'clock. Let's see what we got. Man, I'm still blown away by the Cinebench. Man, can you believe that? That is just wild. All right, let's see if we can't get Steam going. Watch it just work. That would be nice. All right, Cyberpunk. All right. Let's make sure there's not a download or something. All right, let's see. I did use Qtile for a second. Like Qtile, DWM, Xmomonad, those are 3 that I've kind of jumped on for a little bit. Then I was like, I don't really like how this is laid out. I'm going to change this up a little bit. So I would change how I do that a bit. What do we got? Ooh, man, look at that. Path of Exile is a 5 gig update. Holy smokes. I'm just going to let these play out. Let's go to Cyberpunk. Let's jump the line a little bit. I think maybe I just had a whole bunch of stuff in my update queue, and that was problematic. Let's update that too. So I'm just making sure everything is up to date. That's the big thing I wanted to do real quick. Clear that. It probably, what happened with that? I wonder why that's not on there. I think because I jumped the line. Clear that. What happens if I hit download? Download now. Maybe not. All right. So we have that Cyberpunk. And let's see, do we have anything funky in the settings? All right, let's skip the launcher. I hate the, well, I don't think I've done the launcher on this, so we need to set up that, so. I'm gonna hit play. Let's see what happens. We'll see if that launches. All right, install that. Ah, snap. Ah, bummer. Okay, so we had a wine error there. All right. Yeah, sure, download. This is just regular Debian. I guess maybe it was just like a weird bug I had. I probably just didn't let it update. Like I said, I think that was the first time I launched Steam on this machine. So I think I'm just going to chalk it up to that. I mean, it looks like it's going to play. Yes, do as I say. It's never going to get old. Oh, man. Glorious Egg Roll would be awesome. I love him, man.
Good morning.
Let's see if it launches in the game, right?
Hey everyone, feels great to have Did y'all hear about that Arasaka aircraft carrier?
Yeah, we're running Debian.
Kujira, or the whale. Apparently, the Corp figured it wasn't safe in Japanese waters. Afraid
So that's what we're running right now.
harpoon it for
Why it's loading.
scientific research. But honestly, it's quite
Yeah, like I said, I think I just didn't
Militech will respond with
update it. Like that was like one of the first time I launched Steam on this machine.
fortress over Arasaka HQ.
Sometimes you just need to update that.
Man, that is insensitive.
I need
So sorry, where are my manners?
1 second.
President Myers, I mean, of course. Gotta respect the office.
There we go. Let's pause that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Bunny hop. So much better than NVIDIA. NVIDIA can... Ugh. I hate NVIDIA. Come back. Aha! Oh no. Run! Run! Alright, I think we got it up. Alright, Cyberpunk seems to be working. Good enough. John, thanks for the super chat. Yeah, I tried to leave Arch Titus for Windows 11. Oh man, that's a tall order, bro. Less than 12 hours was back to Arch. Finally home on a disc. Oh, awesome, man. I honestly did not think that was going to have a happy ending. I appreciate the super chat though, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm full. I hate NVIDIA. Like, I'm never gonna get sent an NVIDIA card, and at this point, I'm okay with that. I'm just like, oh, come on, NVIDIA. Let me go to the next song. That was a little too hardcore for me. All right, let's see what else we got in chat here. Steal a fleet of cars. Tex, how's it going? Local man. Up in, not Sherman, but, McKinney, right? Good to see you, man. Yeah, right now you can get, Cyberpunk pretty cheap. Yeah, that was on Linux. If you, I switched back and forth using a window manager. I think someone was like, hey, can you play on window manager? And they're like, choose Cyberpunk. I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's so cool, though. I love this from John. He tried Arch Titus and enjoyed it. I love that. Screen tearing, you shouldn't have, although I didn't do any modifications yet. I made an ultimate gaming guide, which I do need to update, and I wanted to switch out the compiler from LLVM to ACO, because ACO is a lot more optimized and better if you're using an AMD card. So I'll have to check that out. I don't know what Star Citizen is. I need to check that out, though. Oh, man, I love that. I love to just shoot the crap with Anthony. That'd be cool. People I know regularly, so I must be doing that. Gotta respect. Yeah, LMDE is actually a very minimal distro. I want to say that's 200 megs. It's one of the lightest distros in existence. The only thing lighter than LMDE is OpenBox. OpenBox, I think, clocks in at about 100 megs. Right now, BSPWM, I think, is 5 megs? 5 or 10 megs, maybe? I think. Don't quote me on that. But it's obviously even lighter than all of them. I'm not using any kind of desktop environment for my stuff right now. What's the problem with it? NVIDIA uses these proprietary blobs that you have to load the same time your system loads. It's a good question, Max. Don't. I know some people in the Linux community are like, why don't? Yeah, but for real, it's actually a good question. NVIDIA does this, and they closed off a lot of their drivers. They used to be a little more open, where back, I think it was before the 1000 series, so it would have been, I think the 970, 980 series was actually a lot, probably the peak for NVIDIA on Linux. And then when the 1060s, 1070s, 1080s came about, they closed off a lot of their drivers and really just basically forced everyone to use proprietary drivers where, I mean, Nuvu was not exactly the best back then, which is the open source NVIDIA drivers, but it's better than it is now, mainly because of NVIDIA's doing. And AMD, on the other hand, went the opposite direction. They used to only offer really proprietary drivers, and they open sourced it all. So I just install like one package for AMD and I'm up and going, and it's amazing. And I can install custom kernels. I don't have to worry about installing like a DKMS or a header model or any of this extra junk that NVIDIA needs. It just works, which is great. That's why I hate, and I do mean hate, NVIDIA on Linux. On Windows, it's a different story, though. It's a different story on Windows. NVIDIA is still king of Windows. I think they have better software. Their encoder for streaming, I love Nvenc 2, and it's a different game on Windows. So that's what it was. Yeah, so like a lot of NVIDIA stuff, like Linux Mint works good, Arch looks good, Ubuntu actually works pretty well as well. Pop! OS has its own NVIDIA spin, which is really good. Oh, it's just a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, Vitter is right here. Nuvu sucks. Unfortunately, we're stuck with proprietary drivers if we want to not have screen tearing. And even then, you have to configure Xorg or whatever you're using. I usually get a screen tearing where you got to enable composition pipeline and then save out the xconfig. And then usually I run like NVIDIA-xconfig to write all those changes permanently so you don't have any screen tearing. You know, actually, Tom, I've talked to Tom quite a bit on like Twitter and stuff like that. Tom's a really good guy over at Lawrence Systems. I like a lot of his stuff. He has really good like pfSense videos and Unify videos. So, yeah, he's cool. He's real cool. So yeah, it's one of the big problems with NVIDIA and what I just explained was basically like if you do custom kernels, sometimes you'll get like screen tearing and you have to install drivers. I know for a Windows user, it's like, well, of course you got to install drivers. No, like AMD, it's like maybe a couple packages that you're just installing. With NVIDIA, it's a whole different dance and it's much more clunky. So that's really the big deal there. John, thanks for the super chat. Keyboard and mouse, I use it. Okay. I think I already told you I was using the Digma Rise, and then, what is this one? This is the one I use to change between all of them. This is the K780. So I have the Triathlon to match it, so then I can easily switch between all the ones. So I usually put this keyboard between my Digma when I'm not doing split keyboards, or if I need to like access a system of my like Synergy, craps out on me, I can easily get to it. I'm looking to get Proxmox going with some VMs on Debian, Arch, Linux, Arch, Windows, Alma, to easily switch without the hassle of bootloaders. You tried anything similar? How did it go? I wouldn't use Proxmox for that. Easily switch. I'm trying to think of how I would do that. If you are interfacing with it from another computer, you might go with like XCP-ng, and if you assign each VM like its own graphics card, you could do that. Or if you got something that did like what is it, SRIOV, you could do like a carve up a video card. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to do that solution, but that's an idea. There's also Unraid. I mean, I always crap on Unraid, and I feel bad for them. They're like my punching bag. They seem like good people though. And if you're actually going to connect up to a box directly and utilize the box while also utilizing the hypervisor, Unraid's not a bad solution for like a cobbled together like 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 system that you're actually using the box for. So all ideas, not necessarily great. Me personally, how I would approach this is I'd try to get at least 2 graphics cards, maybe an integrated graphics card and then like a regular card. I know today that's a tall order, but I'd probably do that, and then maybe like PCI pass-through if I wanted to use virtualization using like QEMU. That'd be a good solution to where you could run Windows, you could do it all on one box. Just doing everything through a VM though, I wouldn't do it that way. I would mainly just load up like Arch or Debian and then do it like a PCI pass-through of like Windows and whatever one I wanted, and then just load up whatever machine I wanted and maybe assign it to a workspace. So, bunch of ideas there. Hopefully one of them helps you out. I blame you. I know, Gan. I get it. Gaming's a hassle on Linux. It really is. I totally get it. I went full fanboy there for a little bit. I was like, Linux gaming's amazing, and I really, really wanted to believe. But, you know, reality eventually catches up with us all. And a lot of those third-party launchers and weird stuff, it's just a little bit strange to get going for 100% compatibility, and it's just never going to get 100% the way we want. So that's why I just kind of caved. I was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to come over here, and when I want a game, I'm just going to come onto here and be like, okay, I want to try it? Fine. I don't? All right, fine. It's not working in Linux or whatever. I don't feel like looking up stuff. I'm just going to... Oh, wait, no. I need to fix my Moonlight. Let's... I'm just going to launch into it here and then just be like, okay. And I'm just going to stream it directly from that box. I've been playing lots of Diablo 2 Resurrected lately. That's why I'm kind of like, meh. And then I'm just going to come right into here, do my thing, and then be like, all right, cool. I'm done. And then get out of it. Back in it, out of it. Windows, Linux. I love that. I just love that. I need to do a video. I've just been lazy, and I've been wanting to work on this some more. Even though I think I was supposed to work on this today, I kind of goofed off all stream. I'm sorry for those folks that were coming here for development, but I just felt like messing around today, you know? Some days you just gotta not doing anything. Except talk to you wonderful people. you gotta send me the link. You got a GitHub for that, Zero? DM me. I would love to see that. That's awesome. Oh, nope. Notice Chris's main PC is Windows. Hey, there's nothing wrong with Windows. Windows is fine. Text, man. I actually switched this whole is just BSPWM. No desktop environment. So everything's completely configured by myself with nothing else. It's using Moonlight. So I'm actually just hosting all of it on a Windows box and then using the NVIDIA streaming. It is. There's no doubt about it. I had the hardware. I was like, why not? It is an expensive solution, though. It's not for everybody. I like it. I like Final Fantasy VII. However, Final Fantasy VI is where it's at. You can fight me any day of the week. Final Fantasy VI is a superior game to Final Fantasy VII. The story alone is way better. Don't get me wrong, I like Final Fantasy VII. I'm just saying 6 is better. Or Final Fantasy 3 for us in the States. Good window. I like BSPWM. BSPWM is really good because everything's written in Bash shell. But probably the most user-friendly one with like a config is i3. I think almost everybody starts with i3 because you actually have some stuff. Yes, I will be making a video on that whenever I get done, which I'll probably get done. My goal is to get done before Christmas. So that's big. Nope. I did not like Dark Souls, rage quitted, threw my controller at the screen and said, this game is terrible. How do people like it? And then I just said, everyone that loves this game obviously has no life, and I quit. In very, very massive, terrible fashion. So that's my opinion of Dark Souls. I never really got into it, though. Oh, man, the soundtrack with the story. I know. Final Fantasy VI. So good. So good. All right, take it easy, Tex. Good seeing you, man. Or well, good hearing from you, I should say. Arch script is at my GitHub. GitHub.com/Chris Titus Tech, all one word. And then it's a pinned repository just called Arch Titus, all one word, too. All the configs are in Bash for BSPWM. That's probably one of the big things I love about BSPWM. Oh, no. Yeah, it's not on my YouTube yet, Tex. I need to upload a video and kind of go over. Oh, wait, no. Arch Titus is on YouTube. I did a video called Arch Titus. So actually, if you just go up to the search bar, just type Arch Titus, all one word. I should be the first video there. So yeah, there we go. I know. Dark Souls is a masterpiece. So many people, like I said, I know I was going to make somebody mad when I said that, but it's just because I never had the time to really get into it and really appreciate it for what it was. You know, I never got into Final Fantasy X, which is hilarious because the main character's name is Titus. Even though they spelled it wrong, but it's still Titus. I was like, oh, that's cool. But I actually never played through the whole game, which is kind of funny. Have you ever thought about making something like Linux VMs for gaming? It's kind of popular in the Linux community to virtualize Windows on Linux and play games from there. Yeah, so the big thing with that is you have to do PCI pass-through to really get some good performance. And graphics cards are in such short supply. You're talking about like a niche of a niche, and to do it properly, you gotta do that. And maybe in the future they'll do something like SRIV where you can carve up your graphics card and be running part of your Linux operating system over here, and then really utilize most of the graphics card in Windows. That'd be awesome. We ain't there yet though. So right now it's just kind of on a back burner. Hopefully sometime in 2022. We see something like that. Yeah. Discrete NVIDIA cards are something, Dave, I have. I did a video last Christmas over with the K-Focus laptops. I'm still using that laptop, and it has a discrete 2080 in it. I love that laptop, but how that is actually configured and utilized in Debian is really fascinating to me. It's so cool because you don't actually connect directly up to the graphics card. As it was explained to me, it is basically like a frame buffer. It basically takes that and copies the frame over to the iGPU and displays whatever it is. So discrete graphics is really neat, and there's good ways to utilize it to where you only turn it on when you're playing a game. It's just right now it's a little wonky, and I gotta tell you, I broke my system several times just messing around with discrete graphics in Debian. So that's a fun one. That's a fun one for sure. Yeah, it's mainly how the passwords and user creation in Linux is set up, Joshua Wood. I need to do a better job. I will say that was my very first, like, in-depth bash script. So I need to go back, fix up, clean up a lot of things with it, run some error checks on it. I do have a commit in the testing branch. So if you're interested in Arch Titus, I need to do some more tests on the test branch. And then I'll do a commit probably before the end of the year on that. Give me a dab before I go. Dab! Yeah, there you go. Cringe. Embrace the cringe. Is there a stable or experiment branch of Arch Titus GitHub I could try? Yes. If you do GitHub clone -b space test, that's the test branch, and that's the experimental one. Try that one, Ben. Let me type in chat. It's let's see, GitHub clone should be like this syntax. Arch Titus. Something like that. That should get you what you need. Arch Titus does not have a live ISO. I wanted to do most of this in Debian. That's kind of why I switched to this. EOS webcam utility is trash. Don't use it. Yeah, I mean, I just got to tell you, even in Windows, the frame rates you get from that webcam utility is garbage. Hot garbage. I think it's mainly because of the USBs that is coming off of it. It's not a good experience. So don't use the ES webcam utility. I'd say get a cam link for the USB, and then go HDMI into that. Or you can go with a Magewell card. I have one of those. What else have I used? There's been a couple stuff, but those are the big things for sure. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to shut it down for the day. I got to go pick up my son. And, man, it was a fun stream. I know I didn't get much done this stream, but it was kind of fun, kind of bouncing around, exploring wine a little bit. That wine Cinebench was kind of nuts. And then kind of just explored gaming a little bit, as wild that was. That was a little bit funky. But, yeah, I'm going to get working on this a little bit more. I know I've been doing a little more offline programming. Mainly in bed. I've just been kind of laying out late nights, just kind of jamming out with everything. But, oh man, always fun with these streams. Friday's stream, I'm thinking we're going to probably dive deeper into, just get right into programming a little bit more of this. I need to make a lot more of the user-friendly changes and get the user-friendliness down. One, figuring out the Rofi menu, figuring out the power menu, getting all that working as it should, so I'm not doing like sudo reboot and stuff from terminal, and then documenting parts of it as we go. We'll be doing GitHub desktop and doing the commits as things get fixed. We'll commit those out. Friday, we might start some experimental like alpha testing for the Debian branch. It just depends. And then eventually, probably next week, we're going to be working on building our own repository and getting all that out. And once I have my own repository, we'll be able to use some certain stuff like Rofi 1.7, which I've done depackages for. We'll see about adding all that. I don't know how involved that is. I just kind of have it on the radar, and that'll probably be next week's. But Friday should be fun. I'll start Friday morning, and yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. It's great. You know, so much fun. Click the like button if you haven't. And with that, I'll see you guys on Friday or next week sometime. Peace. Arch or Debian? The answer will always be both.